like boiling blood, accurately intercepting the thunderous strike. What is this machine? A sense of familiarity surged in Andre's heart. He had unleashed this sword strike almost without reservation, yet it was effortlessly countered. The opponent's machine performance was not inferior to the White Falcon, and even the engine output appeared slightly higher. However, his battle instincts, honed through countless experiences, showed no hesitation. At the moment the lightsaber was intercepted, the armor on the White Falcon's left arm suddenly popped open, revealing a small pulse fusion cannon that had already charged up. This was a close-range shot. A blazing white energy beam roared out, aimed directly at the opponent's chest armor. However, just as the beam was about to hit, the Black Blue Knight's chest armor suddenly lit up with a honeycomb-patterned, dark blue shield. The pulse beam struck against it, exploding into a shower of light fragments, but it failed to penetrate. This is the Nightcrow class, is it you? Andre recognized at the moment the shield appeared. Clifford. The two sides separated instantly, creating a distance of several kilometers, hovering in the void, coldly confronting each other. Long time no see. I've missed you, General Andre. A slightly hoarse yet teasing middle-aged male voice came through the public channel, and Andre could almost imagine the opponent flicking his hair while saying this. Since our last parting at Kalanchta, I've been waiting for you at Zhuangbai for quite some time. I'm almost out of wine. Yet you've been hiding in Carthage, refusing to come out. It's really been a long wait. Inside the cockpit, Andre furrowed his brows. The lightsaber still steadily aimed at the opponent, his voice steady, yet carrying a hint of coldness. Clifford, when did you become their lapdog? He was referring to the glaring Imperial execution order on the opponent's shoulder armor. Lapdog sounds so derogatory, General Andre. I'm not like you, born a noble. Clifford's tone became playful. They give me money and freedom, and I occasionally help them clean up some annoying troubles, like you. You can't kill me. As the words fell, both sides roared their engines and collided again. 150 kilometers away, aboard the Blood Alliance flagship. Colonel Valentine, if I may speak frankly, you should use the divine punishment to directly destroy the target. Rosanaira's gaze remained fixed on the main tactical screen, where the light dot representing Andre's White Falcon was fiercely engaged in battle with Clifford's Nightmare. Each collision caused her to frown slightly, feeling uneasy. She had invested a great deal, utilizing the organization's extremely valuable return protocol to bring the divine punishment here, not to witness a fair duel between knights playing house. Oh, Rosanaira. A casual inquiry came through the holographic projection. How long until the Zhuangbai Navy arrives? Rosanaira took a deep breath, suppressing the annoyance rising in her heart. She disliked Valentine's attitude, as if everything was under control, while she was merely a senior intelligence agent of the organization. At least 10 minutes. In Valentine's voice, there was no trace of urgency. Instead, it sounded as though he had received a reassuring answer. It's not a big deal, he said. Crayfeld told me he could take down the target in 8 minutes. This was the bond among men. His words were filled with confidence in his own judgment and the absolute strength of his knights, even bordering on disdain. Rosanella was speechless. What time is it? Yet. Just 10 seconds later, the navigator suddenly shouted, "Report." A large number of local jump signals detected. What? Rosanella sprang up. It wasn't just her. The entire coalition of pirates turned pale. They're on our flank, less than 50 kilometers away. Almost immediately after he finished speaking, light, continuous light, dazzling and blinding. The platinum streams that jumped out quickly solidified, emerging from the jump. All the pirate ship's sensors were going off frantically. The first to arrive were the Zhuangbi naval frigates. Dozens of Imperial Spear-class frigates slicing straight into the pirate formation, their bodies coated in platinum paint with sharp lines. Following them were dozens of 300-meter-long Stigmata-class destroyers. They resembled moving mountains of steel, their thick composite armor reflecting a cold, hard glimmer. But this was just the beginning. After the destroyers came 39 uniformly painted Prayer-class platinum cruisers, like a steel tide, their bodies well-proportioned with heavy armor. The turret clusters on their sides stood erect like hedgehogs, and the engine exhausts flickered with stable blue light. Next came even larger shadows that obscured the starlight. 15 thunderous Fury-class battlecruisers advanced with an exceptionally steady demeanor, their size larger than the cruisers, with even thicker armor, and their main gun turrets were intimidating in size. When the last 6 colossal ships slowly emerged from the jump channel and descended onto the battlefield, the entire pirate alliance fell silent. 6 Martyr-class battleships. They were true interstellar fortresses, each over 14 kilometers long, with armor that was despairingly thick. Coated in platinum paint, the main gun array at the bow was dense, and the flagship bore a massive emblem of a one-eyed eagle clutching a planet, the symbol of the Zhuangbi family. These 6 giants merely hovered there, casting a physical shadow that enveloped the entire Blood Alliance fleet. The gravitational disturbances from their immense mass even caused nearby smaller ships to unconsciously drift. 6 battleships. The radar officer's voice trembled with despair as he slumped in his chair. 15 battlecruisers, 39 cruisers, 22 destroyers, 18 frigates. Most of the Juangbi Navy's main forces are here. Captain Valentine of the punishment ship felt his pupils freeze. What tactic? What scheme? Any conspiracy or trick is insignificant in the face of an absolute steel fleet. Rosanella, you traitor. Didn't you say we had 10 more minutes? Huh. Rosanira stood still. Her emerald eyes reflecting the 6 iron ships that could dominate life and death, filled only with cold despair. The ship she had summoned at great cost, the Divine Punishment, seemed so insignificant before the 6 martyr-class battleships. A cold and authoritative voice suddenly echoed through the public channel, like a judgment. I am Admiral Claude of the Juam Navy. This airspace has been designated as a military control zone. All unauthorized vessels and armed units must disarm immediately. Any movement or resistance will be considered a declaration of war against the Empire and will be destroyed immediately. As all the pirates trembled before this invincible fleet, a larger silhouette was slowly emerging from behind the solitary refinery, 500 kilometers away. The majestic hull was even longer than the Martyr class, with enormous solar wings scattering a faint, cold light under the star's illumination. Meanwhile, some of the Juam Navy's warships had just finished their tunneling effect. All systems were coming back online. Report. An unknown high-energy source detected on the flank. Distance 506 kilometers. Rapidly magnifying. Unable to identify. IFF unresponsive. No matching signals in the database. Optical sensors capturing a massive shadow. Imaging. Oh my god. What is that? The wave radar is malfunctioning. Repeat. The wave radar is completely non-functional against the target. No echoes. No echoes at all. The gravitational detector is experiencing severe interference. Readings are chaotic. Unable to calculate target mass. A series of panicked reports poured into the bridges of the Juam fleet, especially in the command center of the flagship Justice. A hint of surprise flickered across Admiral Claude's originally cold and authoritative face. He turned to the holographic tactical screen on the side of the main observation window. No mass readings, no energy characteristics, unable to estimate size, unable to predict speed. At this moment, the despair in Rosanira's eyes was replaced by a deeper, incomprehensible shock as she recalled the intel just received from her subordinates. Second sister, there is a battleship behind the Rachel Treasury. Just as everyone focused on that massive shadow, within the pirate coalition, the night fragrance had quietly completed its jump preparations. With a flash of light, it silently vanished into the chaotic coalition formation. How is that possible? This ship didn't detect any hyperspace fluctuations. What? Admiral Claude's eyelid twitched as he looked towards the gradually clarifying massive shadow, knowing what it meant. All units, stand by, prepare to fire. Launch all cruise missiles. All Iron Riders. Carrier aircraft. Drones. All of them launch. Leave no stone unturned. Capture it at all costs. Chapter 89:02 on the bridge of the Death Spiral. Cold white light fell uniformly from the dome, illuminating every corner with clarity and calmness. A massive holographic star map floated in the center of the bridge, with countless light points circulating endlessly. On the tactical star map, the real-time movements of each warship in the Zhuangbai fleet and the pirate coalition were precisely marked. Even the angles of the rotating cannons were calculated clearly. Zavina sat in the captain's seat, now wearing the senior combat uniform of the Sisterhood. Her golden brown hair flowed like a waterfall over her shoulders, carrying a faint fragrance from her recent bath. Her slender fingers tapped lightly on the control interface. At this moment, she was following Lu Ling's orders, slowly maneuvering the battleship away from the port. Her hands were steady on the control interface, fingertips occasionally tapping with precision and efficiency. Ola. Navigation target, begin transition. Beside the captain's seat, a round white orb gently swayed in its designated spot, emitting a soft electronic voice. Auto navigation enabled. Transition engine preparing. Estimated time to target, 849 seconds. Just then, a faint alarm echoed through the ship. Detected large-scale kinetic attack. Zavina raised her eyes and through the massive viewport. She saw countless bright points suddenly lighting up against the dark sky. Those were the cruise missiles launched at full force by the Zhuangbai Navy, hurtling towards them at dozens of kilometers per second, like a devastating meteor shower, the breath of death coming at them. In the external cosmos, Admiral Claude's orders were executed thoroughly. The wrath of the Zhuangbai Navy converged into a destructive torrent capable of obliterating stars, instantly drowning the whirlpool of death. Warning, kinetic strike cluster approaching. Almost at the same moment that Ola issued the alert, outside the viewport, the tide of destruction had already arrived. Thousands of missiles, trailing fiery tails, surged toward the whirlpool of death. However, just as the flood of missiles was about to engulf the ship, an extremely thin, almost transparent shield energy field quietly manifested. A series of earth-shattering explosions erupted instantly. The fiery orbs expanded wildly, overlapping, completely engulfing the whirlpool of death. The brilliance of the explosion was so intense that even the observation windows of the distant Zhuangbai fleet became blinding, forcing soldiers to raise their hands to shield their eyes. Everyone witnessing this scene held their breath, waiting for the mysterious battleship to turn to ash in the explosion. As the shockwaves of the explosion gradually subsided, an unbelievable sight appeared. That mysterious battleship was suspended in place, completely unharmed, the thin energy field still stable, without even a ripple, before gradually fading away. How is this possible? Admiral Claude's pupils constricted sharply, struggling to conceal his shock. In his astonished gaze, the massive hull of the whirlpool of death began to undergo a strange transformation. The surrounding space rippled like the surface of water, as if the entire battleship had merged into the void, smoothly vanishing in an incomprehensible manner. There were no violent spatial disturbances, no blinding transition flashes, not even much energy dispersing. Gone. Claude rubbed his eyes in disbelief and rushed to the optical observation device. However, his view was filled only with countless collapsing and shattered asteroids. That mysterious battleship had completely vanished without a trace. Not just him, countless others were left dumbfounded. The entire fleet channel was eerily silent, with only the empty missile launch silos of the Zhuangbai fleet silently narrating the futile assault that had just occurred. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Claude felt as if his worldview had collapsed. He had commanded the Triumph fleet for decades, engaging in hundreds of battles, and had never encountered such a bizarre situation. Never. Immediately track its jump trajectory, Claude ordered, using all available means. I want to know where it went. However, technicians quickly reported an unsurprising message. There were no residual jump traces left, General. Claude sat back in the command seat, cold sweat trickling down his forehead. At that moment, he finally understood. A massive steel monster had appeared in the Zhuangbai region. He was restless. The bridge door opened, and Parker walked in slowly. Claude and all the bridge members immediately stood up respectfully and saluted. Parker slowly walked up to Claude, his golden eyes glancing over the fine sweat on Claude's forehead. Claude swallowed hard, bowing his head even lower. Claude, what has caused you to lose your composure like this? Parker said with interest as he took a seat in the captain's chair. Claude, standing beside him, respectfully reported everything from beginning to end. I see. Parker glanced at him indifferently. Claude, have you ever heard an old saying from Longhua? An old saying? Claude was puzzled. He was not unfamiliar with the term Longhua, but he had no particular interest in it. However, he knew that his young master was very keen on it. A gentleman is broad-minded, while a petty person is narrow-minded. Young master, I am unaware. Forget it. Parker said lightly. The loss of 160,000 cruise missiles will be deducted from your family's assets. In the depths of the solitary tomb base, at a corner of a metal corridor that had been half collapsed by an explosion, a pile of discarded pipelines suddenly rustled. With a crash, several twisted alloy pipes were forcefully pushed aside, and Lu Ling and Yin Liang crawled out. The previous missile rain had caused the entire solitary tomb base to shake violently. Damn Parker. Lu Ling rubbed his buzzing ears, feeling his brain vibrating. Are you clearing the area or digging a grave? He quickly contacted Zavina. Zavina, respond. How are things on your side? How much did the shield strength drop during that wave of missile rain? Although he was confident in the defense against the death vortex, that was a massive saturation strike. Quite frightening, you know? There was a brief silence on the other end of the channel, followed by Zavina's cold yet melodious voice, which was oddly calm at that moment. 02 what? Lu Ling almost thought he misheard due to his ringing ears. How much? Say it again. 0.2%. Clearly, Zavina confirmed it again, even with a hint of certainty after the confirmation. Lu Ling suddenly raised his head. 2 fully staffed small conventional fleets. A simultaneous volley, and only a drop of 02? My goodness. Is this Eve? Truly frightening. He felt that his deployment would need to be adjusted slightly. Chapter 90. The final battle, the Death Spiral-class vessel vanished into the void like a ghost, leaving behind a devastated battlefield and countless bewildered gazes. To launch or not to launch? Parker's indifferent voice echoed in the command bridge. Colonel Valentine suddenly looked up, his face a mix of shock, humiliation, and disbelief. The thought of being caught crossed his mind, causing his heart to race. The air of Zhuangbai could so easily infiltrate the communication core of his flagship. It was clear that this was a premeditated scheme, and such powerful electronic capabilities nearly suffocated him. It turned out that from the very beginning, the target had been this Thunderstorm-class assault battleship. No wonder the intelligence arrived a full 10 minutes early. Everything had been meticulously planned. All eyes on the command bridge were fixed on him, filled with terror and confusion. That was 2 fully manned fleets. After a brief silence, Valentine took a deep breath, as if tasting the blood in his throat. A flicker of mad determination flashed in his eyes. We will absolutely not be your pawns or slaves. You wanna? Well then, off you go, Parker's voice coldly interrupted. The communication was cut off. That indifferent tone lingered like a death knell in the silent command bridge. Just like that, Valentine decided the fate of over 100,000 people. He slammed his fist down on the fleet-wide broadcast button. His voice hoarse from extreme anger and despair. Listen, I am Valentine, captain of the Thunder Punishment Assault Battleship. That damn Zhuanbei has given us no way out. Everyone, fight your way out with me. Until the last moment. His roar was abruptly interrupted by a deafening explosion. A massive energy spear pierced the engine core of the Thunder Punishment, triggering a catastrophic chain reaction. Then came the second and third. These were the main cannons of 6 Martyr-class battleships. The pirates instantly scattered like birds, frantically fleeing. Jumping away before being targeted was their only chance of survival. No, there's spatial interference. Distortion coefficient at 0. 97. It's still rising. How did Feng Ling jump away? Oh, that damned woman. Jump now. If it exceeds 1, we won't be able to escape. To hell with it. Jump even if it exceeds 1. At least tearing through space is better than waiting to die. Back 2 minutes earlier, deep within the solitary grave base. The echoes of the explosion had yet to subside. Lien weaved through the twisted metal corridors and thick smoke, while the Iron Knights had already hidden themselves. The base was on the verge of collapse, and she had to find Rachel and Sarah quickly. 6 fallen swan guards dispersed around her, searching every corner for any potential hiding spots of prey. Rachel, she must die here. This is Feng Ling's order. And the only way for the Red Army to completely sever ties with the past and be reborn from the ashes. The eastern corridor was cleared, showing no signs of life. The safe house in the west had been blown up, revealing 34 charred corpses inside, seemingly belonging to a gang of villains. The messages coming through the communication channel made Lien's heart sink further. Something's not right. It's too quiet. That old fox Rachel would never just sit back and wait. He must have a backup plan, or he has already left. This thought just crossed her mind when she forcefully suppressed it. Impossible. The perimeter of the base has been blocked by the coalition fleet. He can't escape. Just then, a brief yet sharp noise suddenly came through the main communication channel, followed by a familiar but now cold encrypted command flashing by. It was the highest priority emergency evacuation code, originating from the Night Orchid. Lien's movement abruptly halted. Almost simultaneously, the green beacon representing the Night Orchid on the tactical panel dimmed and disappeared. It jumped away? How could that be possible? And why didn't she inform her? She is the fleet's deputy officer. She is the spearhead for infiltrating the enemy's lair. A wave of inexplicable emotions surged in Lien's heart. Was she also abandoned like the chief? Sister Lien, a lot of Zhuangbai's fleet has arrived outside. They are slaughtering. Confusion, a sense of total abandonment, and the fear of imminent doom engulfed Lien like a tsunami. She felt hopeless. She and her sisters had been completely left behind in this hell that was destined to collapse. But just a few seconds later, something deeper and more obsessive rose abruptly from the ashes of despair, reigniting her eyes. It was an almost insane obsession. No matter why Feng Ling abandoned her. No matter how many fleets were outside. No matter if she was a pawn. Rachel must die. This was the last meaning of her existence. The only lifeline she could grasp to prove that she was not worthless. Follow me. Lien's voice carried a determination of no return as she charged toward the deeper, more dangerous core of the base. 2 of her loyal guards immediately followed without hesitation. At that moment, a group of allied signals approached rapidly. Lien quickly instructed her 2 guards to respond cautiously. They had seen too many enemies disguised as red soldiers along the way. From a massive breach that had been blown open, a cacophony of curses and heavy footsteps could be heard. Damn it. We agreed to kill Rachel together and share the spoils, but everyone is grabbing and taking, quicker than dogs snatching scraps. A rough and resentful curse came first. Why did the leader suddenly leave? Who knows? Let us find something valuable first. Otherwise, this trip will be a total loss. Before the words finished, a group of figures surged out from the breach. Leading them was the Blood Shark, dirty and cursing, with his signature Skull Crusher shotgun slung over his shoulder. Following closely were the calm-faced Ken, who was vigilantly scanning the surroundings, and the ill-tempered Ghost Crocodile, accompanied by several trusted subordinates. Their group appeared fierce but disorganized, with many injured, clearly having faced difficulties along the way. Hey, be careful, someone is there. An observant pirate in the group immediately spotted Lien and the guards in the shadows, letting out a startled cry. Suddenly, the group of pirates tensed up, weapons raised haphazardly, aimed at the shadowy direction, and the atmosphere became instantly tense. Bloodshark. Lien appeared on a high platform, looking down at them from above. The red nano battle armor glinted coldly under the dim light, and her expression was obscured by her faceplate. Shuesha Ken and Gue Yi immediately turned their gazes toward her, their eyes filled with suspicion. Upon recognizing her, Shuesha paused for a moment, then grinned and said, Haha, I thought it was someone important. Turns out it's our Lien Jia. What's wrong? Did the boss Feng Ling ascend without bringing you her right-hand person? His words were full of provocation and testing, voicing the biggest question in everyone's mind. After being loyal and dedicated, being kicked aside at a critical moment would make anyone uncomfortable. The Zagongbai Navy is coming, Lien said Dundunduk. In an instant, the news exploded among Xue Sha's group of desperate pirates. What? The Navy is coming? Is this for real? Didn't they say there was still time? We're finished. Panic spread rapidly. The pirates, who had just moments ago been harboring thoughts of plunder, instantly fell into chaos, their faces filled with fear. Many instinctively looked toward the direction of the breach, as if the cold barrels of cannons were already aimed at them. Shueisha's grin slowly faded. Guiyi spat, his expression darkening further. If the previous feeling was one of coldness, now it was complete despair. Because in this situation, Feng Ling would absolutely not return. Boss, she didn't mean to abandon you. You too? Shueisha sneered. Aren't you also abandoned, Lien? Do you really think Zagongbai won't sink this place? Lien remained silent. Damn it. Charge out. Let us fight them. A pirate shouted with red eyes, but there was more despair than courage in his voice. What are we going to fight with? Their battleship's main gun is bigger than all of us combined. In the chaos, the instinct for survival overtook everything. After a brief commotion, everyone's gaze, whether it was Shueisha, Qin, Guiyi, or the panicked pirates, unconsciously turned toward Lien above. After all, they were all in the same boat. Now, they were even like grasshoppers on the same rope. She was the highest-ranking person here, Feng Ling's deputy. Even if abandoned, she became the only one they instinctively wanted to rely on, the one who might know what to do. What if she had a secret communication channel? In moments of despair, people tend to think of many things, even if they are unlikely. Lien Jia, what should we do now? A pirate asked, his voice trembling. Lien looked down at the group that had instantly transformed from plunderers to lambs awaiting slaughter, and the ice in her heart began to thaw slightly, replaced by complete clarity. Taking a deep breath, her voice beneath the faceplate cut through the noise. What are you panicking for? Just 2 words brought a moment of silence to the chaotic scene. With so many pirate warships outside, even if it was a slaughter, it would take a while to finish. This base is vast and complex. We still have time. Her gaze swept over Shueisha, Qin, and Guiyi. From now on, just follow my lead. Finding a ship to leave is the priority. No, Lien interrupted. We need to find Rachel. He has close ties with Zagongbai. Capturing him gives us leverage for negotiation. Negotiation? Leverage? The pirates held their breath, waiting for Lien's next words. Just then, a sudden voice came from above. What are you looking for Rachel for? Everyone jumped in surprise and instantly aimed their guns at the source of the sound. They saw Lu Ling leisurely sitting at the edge of a platform, looking down at the crowd. The chief? Someone exclaimed, but then lowered their weapon. They couldn't understand how the chief could be here. Shouldn't he be on the Night Orchid? Lien looked up, then fell silent. Beside Lu Ling, the figure of Yin Liang slowly appeared. The Zhongbei Knights. The pirates' nerves instantly tensed, as Yin Liang's classic Zhongbei cloak was unmistakable. Lien's heart sank, and her fingers tightened around the trigger. Bloodshark squinted his eyes. What did the appearance of Lu Ling and the Zhongbei Knights mean? Were they friend or foe? In the midst of a silent panic and confusion, Lu Ling jumped down from a height of over 10 meters, his level 5 armor easily absorbing all the impact. Yin Liang did not jump but appeared beside him in the blink of an eye, never leaving his side, faithfully executing Andre's orders. Lu Ling looked at Lien. Feng Ling, you were sent to kill Rachel? Chapter 91. Psychological warfare. Fighting and killing only hurts feelings. Lu Ling's voice echoed clearly in the damaged corridor. Rachel is my benefactor. How about this? For my sake, let's call it off. The more Feng Ling wanted to kill, the less he would let her have her way. Now, it was finally Lu Ling's turn to make things difficult for Feng Ling. Isn't it a life and death feud? Well, I want to let you kill her. Lien's gaze was cold, but there was a hint of complexity in it. Are you taking revenge on the chief for treating you as bait, as a pawn to be discarded at will? Revenge? Lu Ling put away his smile, his eyes revealing true clarity, his gaze calm and restrained. What is wrong with revenge? Shouldn't I seek it? It's just mutual exploitation. Aren't you also a discarded piece? The term discarded piece burned like a red-hot iron, searing into Lien's heart. Lu Ling glanced at her. Like lightning. Next. Huh. Wow. This one is good. Unfortunately, wearing a battle helmet. No, it looks a bit familiar. Is it Sakura? That cold yet alluring appearance makes one want to make mistakes just by looking at it. Big and soft, when feeling down. Burying oneself in it would make all worries disappear. Do you all want to live? The simple 3 words struck like a hammer, hitting everyone's tense nerves. Lu Ling slowly scanned the room. At this moment, his words were beyond doubt, as Yin Liang was the best proof. In the corridor, only faint breathing could be heard. Finally, a young pirate standing behind Qin trembled and asked the deepest question in everyone's hearts. Chief, have you allied with the Zhongbei? This person, Lu Ling found somewhat familiar. He was the one who stood guard at the entrance during the theft of the star map, and had helped Shi Wei Na register her identity back then. I am me, and the Zhongbei is the Zhongbei, but personally, I still quite admire you. Bloodshark's voice was hoarse, his expression complicated. We? Just a bunch of discarded scraps. Lu Ling shook his head. In my eyes, you have braved mountains and seas for Feng Ling, enduring the bloody battle at Darkwater Bay. I know your skills are honed through experience. You are seasoned veterans, familiar with her tactical style, and possess strong execution, precision, and ruthlessness. Accepting you, I can utilize you immediately without spending time on adjustment. Shueisha was momentarily taken aback, seemingly surprised by Lu Ling's statement. He licked his cracked lips and chuckled, haha. The chief wants to be our leader? It wasn't like this 6 months ago. Lien was shaken and looked at Lu Ling. Indeed, there was a sense of disorientation. That naive young man, who once only had a desire to survive, had transformed into someone so sharp and composed. Lu Ling candidly admitted, I prefer being called captain. Right now, I want to turn Feng Ling into a figurehead. There was no hint of concealment regarding his ambition. He aimed to strip Feng Ling of her foundation. The crowd stirred slightly, all shocked by his boldness and directness. Feng Ling had held power for a long time, and now someone was openly trying to undermine her, challenging their entrenched perceptions. This was not about kindness or justice. It was purely about the most raw power transition. Of course, the choice is in your hands. I am not one to force anyone, Lu Ling said as he quietly stepped to the right, with Yin Liang closely following. The blade and nano armor shimmering with a faint light. In this life-or-death situation, he accurately pinpointed the fundamental desire of these desperate individuals. Submission means survival. Otherwise, they would be buried along with this crumbling base. If not for absolute hatred and vengeance, then loyalty and ideals are fragile and easily shattered in the face of survival. Zhuangbei was a mountain to them, an insurmountable obstacle. The Black Sails Blood Alliance was also a colossal entity. Feng Ling's ability to unite them was formidable. Yet, such schemes and conspiracies could be easily extinguished before the Zhuangbei fleet. Shueisha's eyes flickered intensely. He was straightforward but not foolish. He grinned, damn. I didn't expect to team up with the Master of Division in the end. The reality flipped quickly. Before arriving, he had boasted about being fearless, yet now felt a bit embarrassed. Saying this, he hoisted the Skull Crusher shotgun and walked over to Lu Ling, followed closely by several confidants. Guaya, seeing Shueisha move, also brought his men along. He and Shueisha were sworn brothers, outwardly silent, but they had an unspoken understanding. Qin was silent for a moment. He wasn't good at communication, but reason and reality were clear before him. The explosions from deep within the base vibrated in everyone's hearts. Changing masters and backing might not be a bad idea. It was not that they were disloyal, but it depended on how the leader conducted themselves. Kindness was a luxury. Survival was a necessity. Feng Ling certainly had her charm and superb skills, allowing everyone to receive monthly dividends. However, her excessive coldness and ruthlessness were evident, just like now. When leaving, there wasn't even a notification. Qin tilted his head slightly to his subordinates and led his people toward the right. The remaining pirates, only a few dozen, followed suit as the 3 major squad leaders had already gone over, naturally aligning one after another. In fact, they had long wanted to join them. Finally, only Lien and 2 members of the falling Goose Guard remained. At that moment, a tall personal guard beside Lien suddenly raised her hand and slowly removed her nano-tactical helmet. Beneath her neat silver short hair was a cold yet familiar face, Sakura. Lu Ling had guessed correctly. Her gaze glanced complexly at Lien, and she whispered, Sister Lien, the leader won't be coming back. I want to survive. After speaking, she took a deep breath and stepped towards the right. Lu Ling quickly waved, come here. Following his lead, Sakura stood beside him, flanked by Yin Liang on either side. Like 2 stunning guardians. Bloodshark and the other pirates rolled their eyes in unison. Great. They've set their sights on some pretty cabbage and can't even be bothered to pretend anymore, right? Then another personal guard glanced at Lien and silently walked over. Lien's body swayed slightly, as if the last pillar of her spirit had collapsed. Lu Ling looked at Lien, who stood alone, and slowly spoke, Deputy Lien. I know your abilities well. Hatred and blind loyalty won't save you or the remaining people. Just as I said, you are merely a pawn of Feng Ling, at best. A soldier. Each word struck Lien's heart. She recalled various past events. Feng Ling had indeed changed since ascending to the position of leader of the Red Soldiers. Lu Ling stared at the slightly trembling Lien, a smile gradually forming on his lips, offering her a way out. Deputy Lien, I appreciate you. Dying here is not worth Feng Ling's efforts. She probably considers you dead already and is looking for a new deputy. Lien clenched her fists tightly. A rush of inexplicable emotions surged within her. When Lu Ling's words fell, ultimately, all emotions transformed into a weak and desperate sigh. She slowly, with great difficulty, took a step towards the right, towards the camp that represented survival and betrayal. When she stood firm, It meant that the core combat strength of the Red Soldiers, painstakingly built by Feng Ling, was now being absorbed by Lu Ling with the most realistic desire for survival. Feng Ling had become a mere figurehead. Lu Ling looked at this familiar group of new subordinates, a satisfied smile appearing on his face. He was becoming increasingly skilled at undermining others. He turned to face the group, his voice not loud, but very clear. Let me be frank. Lu Ling's gaze slowly swept across each face, whether fearful, complex, or filled with anticipation. From the moment you stepped over to my side, your life is given by me, Lu Ling. Everything that came before is now reduced to ashes with this base. From now on, you can only be loyal to me. Follow me. There's no need for the convoluted schemes of Feng Ling. As long as you do your job well, you can enjoy wealth and luxury as you please. Then, he suddenly shifted his tone, slowly retracting the smile from his face. But if you betray me, if you dare to betray me, I will reclaim your lives with interest. The words were not sharp, but they sent a chill down everyone's spine. They had no doubt that this new captain, this new leader, could definitely back up his words. A brief silence followed. Finally, it was Bloodshark, the most straightforward yet perceptive among them, who reacted first. He slammed his iconic weapon down heavily on the ground, knelt on one knee, lowered his head, and bellowed in a rough voice. From today onward, I, Bloodshark, pledge my loyalty to the captain. With a leader stepping forward, everything fell into place. The fierce and few-worded Ghost Crocodile was the second to kneel, expressing submission through the most direct action. Thank you for the command, Captain. Ghost Crocodile. Willing to serve. Next, the Rational Kin took a deep breath, knelt on one knee, and seeing this, his subordinates showed no hesitation, all kneeling in unison. Following them were Sakura and another member of the Falling Goose Guard. Lien watched the shocking scene of submission unfold before her, seeing her former comrades kneeling before that man. Her heart was filled with complex emotions. The environment can truly change a person rapidly and thoroughly. Lien closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and slowly, with endless complexity, knelt down as well. At that moment, it represented their complete severance from the past. The core team that Feng Ling had painstakingly built was now entirely on their knees. Everyone lowered their heads. There were still 4 members of the Falling Goose outside. Lien spoke. Oh, so quickly stepping into character? Lu Ling was somewhat surprised. Call them all in, gather them all. The silent Yin Liang, standing aside, looked thoughtfully at Lu Ling's back. Chapter 92. Stop. Robbery in the Blackwater Bay, on the outskirts. In the Shattered Star Whirlpool Zone, countless metal debris of varying sizes and asteroids were bound by gravity, endlessly colliding and breaking apart, forming a natural and dangerous barrier. Further away, remnants of the fierce battle against the Red Devil from days ago could still be faintly seen, along with lingering energy embers, silently narrating the brutality of this place. At the edge of this deadly void, a considerable fleet, organized and disciplined, maintained a high level of vigilance as it slowly navigated. This formation was far from the disorganized crowd of pirates, exuding a strict military style forged through rigorous training. The core of the fleet was a particularly sturdy Rhino-class heavy transport ship. Surrounding it was a powerful escort force, 5 rugged, turret-laden Leviathan-class cruisers, 7 agile Nebula Shark-class destroyers, and 8 Rue Beast-class corvettes. Such a lineup was enough to deter most would-be opportunists in Blackwater Bay. Each warship's armor was clearly spray-painted with a prominent emblem, a shield covered in golden dragon scales, topped with a dazzling Karasai crown. This was the insignia of the Karasai Group, a powerful security firm. Rumor has it that its founder is a retired high-ranking officer from the Imperial military and an hereditary noble, with intricate ties to the Imperial Security Department and even the Imperial Navy. The Karasai Group specializes in providing the highest level of armed escort services for large enterprises, nobles, and official institutions in the Empire, known for its high fees, tough approach, and exceptional success rate. Their presence in the lawless Blackwater Bay signified that the goods on board were of immense value. Even the naval forces of the local nobility, including those from the neighboring regions, would not turn against Dragon Shield Security over a small sum of money. Therefore, the financial reports of Dragon Shield Security show annual growth. K, one of the 12 agents at the Smile Broker Agency, known for his caution and efficiency, is responsible for the most secretive and crucial transport missions. At this moment, he is not seated but standing with his hands behind his back in front of the main screen, his brow slightly furrowed as he gazes at the perilous debris field outside. He is wearing a specialized combat uniform, with thrusters, that stands out from the attire of the surrounding crew members. But his sharp eyes scan the edges of the debris vortex. Their current mission carries unprecedented responsibility. After more than 10 days of cautious jumps from 276 light-years away, they are transporting not ordinary goods but a massive cash amount that was just withdrawn from the depths of the Karasai Empire Bank's vault using an anonymous black diamond card, a staggering 86 million star coins. This overwhelming liquidity is the foundation for the vast gray transactions that the Smile Broker Agency will conduct in Blackwater Bay and surrounding star regions over the next year. It is the lifeblood of their commercial empire. If all goes as planned, the amount to be transported next year will likely be even greater. The core business of Smile Broker is lending. For this substantial transport task, they spared no expense and connections, investing 3 million star coins to bypass all conventional mercenary channels, ultimately entrusting the well-connected and reputable Dragon Shield Security Group with the entire escort operation. Dragon Shield Security Group also places great importance on this mission, dispatching a significantly above-standard escort fleet, personally commanded by a retired lieutenant colonel named Walker. Agent K takes a deep breath, trying to suppress a vague sense of unease. Blackwater Bay is now in sight. The reason for not jumping directly in is naturally to avoid drawing attention. This dangerous place has too many informants. As long as this money is not deposited into the treasury of the Sky City, there is always a risk of being robbed. Moreover, the jump point is too far from the Sky City. Such a large sum could drive anyone mad. The Sky City is the only place of order in Blackwater Bay, maintaining deterrence through absolute military might. Thus, they must sneak in, take the shortest route, and remain undetected to maximize confidentiality. Agent K glances at the communication indicator light, representing Commander Walker on the side screen. Everything is normal. The fleet units report their safety status every 30 seconds, maintaining a steady rhythm with no anomalies. One last check. Agent K issues the command. Dragon Shield Cruiser number 34 is normal, no abnormalities detected. Dragon Shield Cruiser number 35 is normal, scanning the clear airspace. The Destroyer Squadron is normal, no unusual movements. Within 850 kilometers, all is calm. The periodic gap in the navigation route of Blackwater Bay is about to open. Walker communicates, Mr. K, the escort has reached its destination. As per the contract, our mission will be complete once you enter. Any subsequent losses shall be borne by your side, and our company will no longer fulfill the escort duties. Officer K nodded, knowing that someone with a smile would be waiting for them at the end of the Blackwater Bay. Manager Walker, may your journey home be smooth. However, less than 2 seconds after he spoke, a blinding flash of transition suddenly lit up the dark universe in the distance. Officer K's eyes twitched, nerves stretched to the limit, and he immediately contacted Long Shield. Walker, a ship just jumped in. Walker replied with confusion, Officer K, my radar shows nothing. K frowned, coordinates B74, Y93. 3 o'clock direction. What's going on? Walker's side exclaimed, I see it, but nothing is showing on the radar. Suddenly, report. An unknown high-energy source has appeared on the flank. It's approaching rapidly. Unable to identify. IFF unresponsive. No matching signals in the database. Optical sensors have captured a massive shadow. It's imaging. What is that? The wave radar has failed. Repeat. The wave radar has completely failed to detect the target. No echoes. No echoes at all. The gravitational detector is experiencing strong interference. Readings are confused. Unable to calculate mass. Officer K's heart sank. In the deep darkness of the universe, a shadow was gliding toward them. He stared intently at the shadow that had appeared out of nowhere, rapidly enlarging on the main screen. A chill from the depths of his soul swept over him. The shadow was so large that it distorted the starlight background captured by the optical sensors. Its outline gradually becoming clearer under the dim light refracted by the shattered stars, streamlined, yet exuding an absolute sense of power, with heavy, despair-inducing dark armor. And a pair of enormous solar wings, adjusting their angles like the wings of a demon. It appeared so abruptly, so quietly, just like that. It glided before everyone's eyes. The armor was as dark as night. The massive, heavy bow of the ship loomed before them in the depths of space, in a nearly overwhelming posture, slowly coming to a stop several dozen kilometers away from their fleet. Its size was suffocating. The lines of the hull filled with a sense of destructive industrial beauty, and the 2 giant solar wings reflecting a cold, eerie light resembled the wings of a demon. All advanced sensors of the Long Shield fleet were nearly ineffective against it, relying solely on the most primitive optical visual capture. It was like a ghost, or perhaps a demon that devoured all signals. What on earth is that thing? In the channel, someone screamed hoarsely out of unknown fear. My God, is that a battleship? No way. Even the experienced and calm Walker fell momentarily speechless. However, he quickly composed himself. All units of the fleet, attention. Highest combat alert. This is not a conventional vessel. Repeat, this is not any known type of ship. Energy characteristics unidentifiable. But everyone could hear the tremor in his voice, filled with disbelief and horror. This giant ship, with its domineering simplicity and violent industrial aesthetic, was unheard of and unseen. Unfortunately, the Death Vortex class has arrived, slowly coming to a halt, coldly hovering in front of the Dragon Shield fleet, like an infinitely upward and outward extending steel cliff. completely blocking their only route to the Blackwater Bay. The massive hull cast a shadow that seemed capable of swallowing even the faint light of distant stars. An invisible, heart-stopping sense of terror gripped the throats of everyone in the fleet, just as chaos erupted among the Dragon Shield fleet. With cruisers and destroyers hurriedly turning to aim their guns at this unexpected behemoth, and frigates frantically maneuvering like startled fish attempting to re-establish an interception line. A strong interference noise crackled, followed by a cold, clear female voice forcefully cutting in and overriding all public communication channels of the Dragon Shield fleet, including encrypted channels and internal lines. The voice was not loud and had a flat tone, yet it seemed to resonate directly in everyone's inner ear, carrying a chilling message that pierced the soul. Don't move, stand still, robbery. Chapter 93, 1,200mm robbery? A battleship robbing? What a joke. What the hell? Inside the bridge, Commissioner K felt his blood nearly freeze. How could this information leak? The enormous cash amount of 86 million star coins now felt like a noose around everyone's necks. After the initial shock and humiliation, Colonel Walker, the commander of the Dragon Shield, quickly regained his composure, with the professionalism of a soldier and a hint of anger diluted by absurdity taking over. A battleship. He had seen them before, but it absolutely could not appear here. Robbing. Absurd. Simply absurd to the extreme. He fixed his gaze on the sensors, straining to capture the blurry outline of that giant ship in an enlarged image, his eyes scanning every detail like the most precise probe. Wait, only 2 main guns. Walker almost thought he was seeing things. He confirmed repeatedly that the gun positions were all empty, with no secondary guns, close-in weapons, or missiles. A seemingly reasonable conclusion that could explain this unbelievable scene struck his mind like lightning. His heart, which had nearly stopped from fear, began to race again. But this time it was fueled by a mix of furious anger at being deceived and the thrill of survival. I understand. Walker suddenly stood up, his voice hoarse with excitement as he roared through the fleet channel. Everyone pay attention. Don't be intimidated. This is a converted cargo ship. An abandoned hull picked up from somewhere, only equipped with 2 decent main guns. Its massive size is just a bluff. His analysis acted like a stimulant, instantly revitalizing the nearly collapsing Dragon Shield fleet. Yes, how could a battleship possibly have only 2 guns? This was completely inconsistent with any warship design logic. It must be some ancient, obsolete hull picked up by a crazy faction that mounted 2 main guns just to scare people. Perhaps even the main guns were fake. Fear quickly dissipated, replaced by a sense of humiliation from being deceived and the anger of a professional bodyguard provoked. Aim for its bow. Tear apart its disguise. Colonel Walker's voice was filled with murderous intent. Fire the main guns of the cruiser fleet. Saturation strike. The destroyers maneuver to encircle and attack its engines and turret bases. The frigates close in to disrupt. Concentrate fire. Concentrate fire. With a single command, the well-trained fleet erupted with efficient combat power. The 5 massive cruisers adjusted their positions, and the fearsome multiple-launch 320mm main guns emitted a heavy mechanical roar, gathering blinding energy towards the enormous bow of the enemy ship. 7 destroyers erupted with blazing blue exhaust, like arrows released from a bow, viciously charging towards the flanks and rear of the enemy. Their main guns, rapid-fire cannons, close-in defense guns, and missile launchers all opened fire, unleashing a deadly barrage. 8 frigates, agile like hunting dogs, pressed forward under immense psychological pressure. A saturation attack that seemed capable of tearing the stars apart was about to drown the paper tiger of a giant ship. The enemy ship remained quietly suspended, indifferently looking down at the insignificant ants below. Countless attacks rushed in. That thin layer of shield reappeared, and all the firepower crashed into it, not even stirring a ripple before silently vanishing. Walker stood up abruptly. Is this a shield? What kind of shield is this? How can there be such a shield? Isn't it supposed to only reduce kinetic impact? This is no good. Walker's face turned pale. It's a real battleship. The enormous 1,200mm cannon on the port side of the enemy ship, with a barrel length of 25 meters, slightly adjusted its angle. The dark muzzle suddenly brightened. A blazing white flash. In the next moment, the leading frigate was instantly destroyed, yet the shattered hull continued its momentum, crashing violently against the shield before being violently rebuffed. One shot. Instant kill. In the void, only a thin layer of debris remained, proving they once existed. The entire battlefield felt like time had been paused. All the frenzied attacks of the fleet froze instantly. Before they could recover from this devastating blow, the massive cannon lit up again, a bright flash. It locked onto another maneuvering destroyer desperately, trying to find an attack angle. Boom. The entire destroyer was split in 2, flames erupting. However, the 2 massive cannons of the enemy ship turned their fire again, this time targeting the cruisers. Colonel Walker's heart was completely frozen. The commissioner knew that this money was lost. Calling for support? It would be a futile death. This is a real battleship. Stop. We surrender. Colonel Walker used the last bit of his strength, fearing that he would be locked on if he hesitated for even a second, needing to minimize losses. At this rate, total annihilation was just a few shots away. There was no time to activate the jump engines. Damn it. Even stepping out the door was met with a battleship's ambush. What else could be done? What is this Joao Bay doing? Allowing a battleship to roam freely in its own territory. Now, all they can do is pray that the other side keeps their word. The communication channel is filled only with his heavy, terrified breaths. As the ships of Long Shield shut down their engines and silently surrender, the dark mouth of the 1,200mm caliber cannon on the port side of the Death Spiral class slowly shifts, and the 25-meter-long barrel returns to its original position. A cold, clear voice echoes through the communication channel. It would have been better if you had done this earlier. Colonel Walker slumps in the command chair, cold sweat soaking his expensive uniform, gasping for breath as the relief of surviving intertwines with the humiliation of being crushed by absolute power, leaving him nearly exhausted. He never dared to dream of this day. If the death of one doesn't affect the other, Long Shield has already paid the price. The rest. Let the smiling ghost bear it alone. Commissioner K's face turns ashen, the last glimmer of hope completely shattered. The opponent is too strong, and Long Shield has no means to fight back. He looks at the screen filled with Long Shield ships, motionless like lambs awaiting slaughter, then glances at the seemingly all-consuming steel cliff ahead, a bitter curve forming at the corner of his mouth. How could the information leak? Could it be a coincidence? He doesn't believe it. Faces of all those in the know flash through his mind, but delving into this now is meaningless. The lifeline of 86 million star coins for the Smiling Ghost Agency, absurdly, is being robbed under his escort by a real battleship. He cannot fathom how Joao Bay could have a pirate capable of deploying a battleship for robbery. Now, he can even imagine the twisted, furious face of Mr. Smiling Ghost upon learning this news and the tragic fate that may await him. But what can he do? Call for support? Have the forces of Smiling Ghost lying in ambush at Blackwater Bay come over? That would be tantamount to sending them to their deaths. Resistance is futile in front of this monstrous battleship. Colonel Walker's hoarse voice, tinged with a hint of pleading, comes through the communication channel. Let's do as they say. We have suffered heavy losses here. This falls under the force majeure clause of the contract. Please contact the insurance company on your side. His voice is filled with a sense of powerlessness, clearly having completely surrendered, wanting only to escape this nightmare as quickly as possible. Understood. Commissioner K closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, and when he opens them again, only numb despair and resignation remain. Trembling, he extends his hand and inputs a series of commands on the control panel. What bad luck. Robbed by a battleship at his own doorstep. Release insurance cargo containers 1 through 9. The order is given. The bulky belly of the Rhino-class heavy transport ship slowly opens its heavy armor plating, revealing the complex internal structure of the cargo hold. 6 specially reinforced and anti-scanning coated special cargo containers detach from the main structure of the transport ship, propelled by mechanical arms, drifting toward the Death Spiral class. Inside, they are neatly stacked with 86 million cold, shimmering star coins in cash. This is a colossal fortune that could drive any faction mad, accumulated over decades of pure profit. Now, all the principal and profits have gone up in flames. After the containers detached, their built-in miniature engines activated, emitting faint ion streams that gently propelled them, like sacrificial offerings, towards the terrifying massive ship. Meanwhile, a section of the enormous hull of the dreadnought silently slid open, revealing a deeper, brightly lit internal space. Walker and Commissioner K attempted to catch a glimpse of the mysterious battleship's formation, but saw nothing, their vision blocked by a faint blue barrier. Then, several thick, softly glowing blue beams of attraction precisely locked onto the 6 containers, drawing them in steadily and irresistibly, like a whale siphoning water. The entire process was quiet, efficient, and imbued with a suffocating industrial beauty, yet filled with a cold sense of predation. Everyone could only watch helplessly as the treasures they were escorting were easily devoured, without even a ripple of resistance. After a brief silence, the cold female voice returned through the public channel, still as flat as before, devoid of any emotional fluctuation. Thank you. You may leave now. At the same time, the nightmarish, mysterious battleship began to slowly turn, its massive solar sails adjusting angles, and the engine nozzles gradually lit up with a ghostly blue glow, clearly preparing to depart. The oppressive feeling suddenly lessened, but the psychological shadow it left was deeply etched like a brand. Colonel Walker felt as if pardoned, nearly screaming orders. Quick! Start the engines. Maximum speed. Get out of here. Immediately. Now. The remaining ships of the Dragon Shield fleet, like startled birds, hurriedly reactivated their systems, even neglecting to maintain formation, and frantically fled in the opposite direction at the best speed they could manage. Commissioner K collapsed into his chair, staring blankly at the empty cargo hold surveillance screen, as if all his spirit had been drained away. On the hangar deck of the dreadnought, Savina stood before the 9 containers, watching as robotic arms secured, unlocked, and opened them one by one. In an instant, the entire cargo hold seemed to be illuminated by a ghostly blue light. Before her was a mountain of star coins, glimmering with a cold metallic sheen, totaling 86 million. They were neatly stacked on specially designed coin boards, forming dizzying hills of wealth. The air seemed to be permeated with a cold, metallic, orchid-like aura. Even Savina, upon seeing such a massive amount of cash piled before her, felt a slight ripple in her steel blue eyes. The scanning beam swept over. Star coins, 86 million. Savina reached out and casually picked one from the nearest pile of star coins. She had no interest in money, but the captain would certainly appreciate it. Thinking of this, a faint blush crept to the back of her ears. The captain would definitely come to collect these star coins. Soon, they would meet again. Chapter 94: The True Sacrifice in the Solitary Grave Base, the main battlefield. The arrival of the main fleet from the Juanbi Navy was like divine retribution descending upon the earth, instantly rewriting the rules of engagement. The entire fleet received orders to lock onto their target, the Thunder Punisher, and send it on its way. Admiral Crode's cold command resonated clearly across every Juanbi warship. At the moment the order was given, 6 Martyr-class battleships simultaneously adjusted their positions. Their massive and overwhelming turret arrays on the bow and sides almost synchronously and precisely adjusted their angles. The astonishingly thick 1,600mm cannon barrels slowly adjusted their elevation, firmly locking onto the silhouette of the Thunder Punisher. In the next second, the void trembled. The cannon mouths suddenly spewed forth blazing flames, stretching for dozens of kilometers. Hundreds of heavy projectiles were launched from the cannon barrels with a terrifying mixture of chemical and electromagnetic propulsion, tearing through the vacuum at speeds far beyond the naked eye's capture, carrying pure kinetic energy and a will for destruction toward their target. The polarization shield of the Thunder Punisher erupted with blinding light upon contact with the physical barrage, flickering violently in an attempt to deflect and absorb the horrific impact. However, the concentrated fire from the 6 battleships generated an overwhelming amount of energy. The shield barely held for a moment before it completely shattered, disintegrating into scattered energy ripples. Without the protection of the shield, the deadly hail of projectiles directly struck the Thunder Punisher's heavy armor. The entire ship shook with deafening noise. Each shell was like a tolling death knell, striking deep within the souls of the crew. The fear in the hearts of the crew could no longer be contained. Screams and chaos spread like wildfire. Massive fireballs erupted continuously from the hull of the Thunder Punisher, the expanding flames instantly engulfing large sections of armor and structure. Countless twisted metal fragments, vaporized equipment parts, and the remains of crew members who could not escape were violently hurled into the cold void by the explosion's shockwave. The entire warship shook violently as if being struck by countless invisible fists, swaying and tilting. The shield collapsed. The front armor was penetrated. Areas A and B lost pressure completely. Some structures suffered severe damage. Multiple chain explosions occurred. The starboard propulsion array was hit by shrapnel and caught fire. Power output decreased by 40. Inside the Thunder Punisher's bridge, the damage control alarms shrieked piercingly, and red lights flashed frantically, illuminating Colonel Valentine's pale and contorted face. The violent vibrations made it nearly impossible for him to stand, while the communication channels were filled with the terrified screams of his subordinates and the roar of explosions. He realized he had fallen into a trap. This was all a conspiracy orchestrated by Rosanella in collusion with the Juanbi Navy. No, I must survive. Finding a reason, Valentine shouted hoarsely, "Give me a counterattack. Activate the Thunder Punisher. Counterattack. Hit back hard." The Thunder Punisher's structure was damaged and could not deploy. Damn it. Valentine called his aide. "You take command. I will lead the assault myself." The aide immediately nodded solemnly and took the captain's seat. Once, he had dreamed of sitting in this position, but now that he truly occupied it, the grand momentum was gone, leaving only fear and confusion. Meanwhile, other ships of the Zhou B naval fleet, like a pack of sharks sensing blood, charged towards the chaotic pirate coalition. The cruisers and destroyers unleashed a torrential steel storm from their medium cannons and rapid-fire close-in weapons, obliterating any pirate assault boats and armored vehicles that dared to approach or retaliate into burning wreckage. Occasionally, searing laser beams, serving as auxiliary point defense weapons, sliced through key targets with precision, but the primary assault always came from the thunderous cannon fire. The Blood Alliance, the Villains Gang, and the Black Sail Pirates were plunged into despair. Their counterattacks merely sparked off the heavy armor of the Zhou B warships, often resulting in nothing more than a shower of sparks or a dent. Their escape routes were completely sealed off by interwoven gunfire and invisible spatial distortions. The villainous giant was dead. The captain was missing. Who was in command? The Phoenix Belle had long fled. Damn it. At the same time, within the formation, a black-sail frigate was in its jump countdown. This was the very ship that had silently abandoned the proactive interception during Andre's initial raid on the main formation. The spatial distortion coefficient was a bit high. The Zhao B's jump interference was being deployed. The spatial distortion coefficient had already risen to 0. 912. The black sail commander took a deep breath. No matter, jump directly. My luck has always been good. The countdown continued. The jump engines activated. The entire frigate trembled amidst the relentless bombardment, and as the commander had said, his luck held. Not a single shell struck. Buzz. Space rippled, and in an instant, the hull escaped this hell of death. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. Thankfully, the jump engines had been activated 3 minutes early. Boss, what do we do now? The commander pondered. The black sail definitely can't return to Blackwater Bay. Pack your things. We are leaving Zhao B. Back to the main battlefield. The path of destruction for the divine punishment was not yet at an end. As a battleship, its armor was 15 meters thick and boasted a strong, energy-absorbing inner lining. Concentrated fire on such an assault battleship would take at least 8 minutes to sink it. Just as Valentine had boasted to Rosanira that it would take only 8 minutes for Clifford to kill Andre. At this moment, Valentine was rushing through the violently shaking and explosively chaotic corridors of the ship with several trusted aides. They were all clad in level 3 nano battle armor, moving at incredible speeds. The red emergency lights spun wildly, casting fluctuating shadows on their faces, intermingling fear and determination. The blaring alarms and distant explosions were the only background noise. Each step felt like a march to death's drumbeat. Hurry, head to control the B-7 emergency hangar. Valentine's voice echoed in the corridor, drowning out the metallic groans. They had just rushed past an intersection when a deafening explosion erupted behind them. A searing shockwave mixed with metal debris surged from the corridor's end, instantly engulfing one of the aides left behind, who could barely let out a scream. Valentine and the others were violently pushed forward by the shockwave, crashing heavily against the cold bulkhead. Colonel, a man struggled to rise, while nanomaterials were repairing his wounds. As he looked around, he suddenly realized that a piece of metal had torn through his entire abdomen. The colonel staggered and fell heavily. Valentine's heart raced as he spat out blood, and his gaze turned fierce. The will to survive overwhelmed everything. He couldn't die here. He could not become a casualty of the ship. He had important confidential information to report. Move quickly. They finally tumbled into the B-7 emergency hangar. This part of the vast ship was relatively intact, but half of the overhead lights were shattered, sparking everywhere. A sleek, 16-meter-long, 25-meter wingspan shuttle quietly rested on the magnetic anchor, like a lurking metallic falcon with elongated wings. Valentine immediately activated it with his credentials. The shuttle's belly hatch slowly opened, and the hull began to vibrate. Hurry, the colonel. Someone stumbled in from the entrance. The bridge has been destroyed. The midship's keel structure is broken. Valentine didn't reply. He squeezed through the hatch just wide enough for one person, followed closely by the others. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Everyone immediately took their seats and powered up the systems. The shuttle's engines began to hum. Just then, the ship experienced another terrifying tilt and violent tremor. The magnetic locking mechanism has failed. A chilling sound of metal snapping echoed from deep within the hull. The hangar deck suddenly warped upwards, and the shuttle began to tip towards the hangar's alloy wall. Hurry. Lift off. Just as the wings were about to break, the hum reached its peak, and the entire shuttle steadied, no longer swaying with the tremors. Valentine directly activated the cannon, blasting a gap through the deformed exit. The heavy, stuck deck began to rise. Inside the cockpit, everyone's nerves were stretched to the limit. Outside the cockpit, there was an endless tremor and roar, as if two worlds were colliding. At the last moment, the deck finally revealed an opening wide enough to escape. Charge! The shuttle's engines roared, and in an instant, it broke free from that hellish prison and entered space. Behind them, the massive, mountain-like silhouette of the ship quickly shrank. Just seconds after taking flight, an explosion that consumed everything finally occurred. A gigantic fireball silently and violently expanded, instantly engulfing all remnants of the ship, the struggles, and everything that couldn't escape, vaporizing it completely. The shockwave rapidly swept across thousands of kilometers, sending Valentine's shuttle flying violently. The windows were covered in spiderweb-like cracks. Valentine struggled to lift his head and looked out through the nearly shattered observation window. In the dark universe, an artificial sun was slowly rising. The assault battleship, now in ruins, had sunk. He survived. Valentine collapsed in his seat, gasping for breath, sweat and blood soaking his uniform. His warship, his subordinates, his ambitions, all turned to nothing with this burst of flames. Zhuanga, Rosanira. He nearly squeezed these two names through clenched teeth, his eyes burning with deep-seated hatred. Just wait. I, Valentine, will return. Chapter 95. The player, as the light from the execution signal completely faded, the battle reached its conclusion. The Zhuangga Navy's warships, fighter jets, assault boats, and cavalry efficiently cleared the battlefield with almost brutal precision. Any who refused to surrender, attempting to move or retaliate, would immediately face precise and deadly artillery strikes, turning them into new space debris. On the flagship, the Martyr-class battleship, Justice, in the bridge, the atmosphere was solemn and grave, contrasting sharply with the silent destruction outside the portholes. Admiral Claude stood before the central tactical platform, watching the last few crimson dots on the sand table finally extinguish. After verifying the intelligence once more, he turned briskly and walked toward a secluded observation deck on the second level of the bridge. Upon reaching the door, 2 soldiers immediately saluted. "Young master, come in." The room had a wide view, with the entire curved porthole revealing the tranquil starry sky and the remnants of the battlefield that had not yet dissipated. Parker was leisurely reclining on a soft sofa facing the stars, as if everything outside the window had nothing to do with him. Claude took a few steps forward, stopping at just the right spot, reporting in a steady tone. "Young master, the cleanup has been completed, the designated targets have been destroyed, and there are no longer any organized resistance forces on the battlefield." "Did Valentine escape?" "Yes. Find an appropriate opportunity to release Rosanira as well." "Understood. Do not act on Fengling for now. You won't catch up to that jump engine." "But young master," Parker slowly raised his hand, stopping him. His golden eyes lifted slightly, causing Claude to lower his head slightly. "Claude, Fengling is already on alert this time. Any further action will alert her. Now, all planning proposals regarding her are to be personally reviewed by me." Parker stretched lazily as a maid immediately draped a coat over him. "She still has the Silverlight family's inheritance. Let customs scrutinize it more. Keeping it at home will suffice. Without outside assistance, she can't go far." "Understood. Women are emotional creatures. Claude, you must learn to use that to your advantage." Claude humbly bowed his head. "What about Andre? He has already received the distinguished guests." "Good. I will personally greet them. Prepare the banquet with count-level treatment. And tell those chefs who claim to be skilled in Longhua cuisine to prepare a few signature dishes." "Yes, young master." After Claude withdrew, Parker returned to the sofa, his gaze deepening. The door opened again, and a maid approached to report softly. "Young master, there is a private communication incoming." "Ah, it's always like this. No amount of bloodshed can cleanse the interests of certain people." Parker did not answer. "Tell them I'm resting. If anyone wants to bail out the pirates, make a list and write down their sincerity. We'll handle it tomorrow." The maid bowed and retreated. Meanwhile, on the battleship Justice, at the D3 docking port, the heavy composite armor airlock emitted a low, prolonged sound of pressure release, and the internal and external pressure balance indicator turned from red to green. The thick hatch door, several meters in height, slowly slid open to reveal a brightly lit, yet cold and stern docking corridor behind it. A smoothly designed, exquisitely painted platinum-colored shuttle glided into its berth. The shuttle came to a steady stop, and the cushioning mechanism on its landing gear emitted a faint hiss. A delicate hatch on the side opened upwards, lowering a pristine short ladder. Inside the cabin was a luxurious setting. The soft, thick carpet absorbed all footsteps, while the walls were wrapped in warm wooden panels, and a faint fragrance that helped soothe the nerves filled the air. The seats were spacious and comfortable, with a few sparkling droplets still lingering in the crystal glasses fixed to the small tables. Someone approached, and Lu Ling opened his eyes. It was Andre. At this moment, he had shed his signature black nano battle armor and changed into the uniform of a naval officer from the Zhuangbe family, having also removed his cape. However, a hint of fatigue from battle flickered in his grayish-white pupils, and his posture remained as straight as a pine tree. "Sir, we have arrived at the Justice, and Master Parker is waiting. Please follow me," Andre said. Lu Ling nodded and stood up. Andre stepped aside, making a clear gesture for him to proceed first, before following closely behind while maintaining a respectful distance. As they descended the ladder, the scene in the docking corridor came into view. 2 rows of nearly 1,000 soldiers clad in black-powered armor stood solemnly, their helmets obscuring their faces. The naval infantry soldiers held their magnetic rifles with the barrels strictly pointed downwards, presenting a ceremonial salute rather than a combat-ready stance. The cold armor was polished to a mirror shine, exuding an overwhelming presence. However, at the forefront of this steel formation, amidst the cold and stern atmosphere, stood a figure that seemed out of place, yet oddly blended in. It was Parker, the legitimate son of Count Zhuangbe Krun and the first heir of the Zhuangbe family. He was not dressed in the lavish attire typical of the aristocracy. Instead, he wore a somewhat peculiar Zhongshan suit. It featured a standing collar, for patch pockets, and a full flap. The 5 buttons, made from some kind of polished gemstone, were engraved with intricate patterns resembling the golden eagle of the Zhuangbe family. The fabric was a deep, almost black navy blue, heavy and structured. The suit was tailored to fit Parker perfectly, projecting both dignity and a sense of competence. Although it seemed out of place, the wearer's own temperament and status made it an undeniable and unique symbol of authority. Clearly, Parker was well prepared. These nobles indeed paid attention to details. If one were to confront them, brute force alone would likely be ineffective. Upon seeing Lu Ling descend the ladder, a sincere and warm smile appeared on Parker's face. He took 2 steps forward to greet him, stopping at a position that felt both approachable and appropriately respectful. His movements made the Zhongshan suit appear even more polished. Sir Lu Ling. Parker's voice was clear, carrying just the right amount of warmth. Welcome to the Justice after your long journey. No matter what, these nobles at least put on a good show, and Lu Ling couldn't find any faults. As the two met, Parker naturally extended his right hand, a gesture of equal and formal greeting. His handshake was firm and powerful, perfectly timed. Lu Ling didn't expect to be personally welcomed by Mr. Parker. He responded calmly, momentarily pausing his gaze on Parker's unique outfit before speaking. It was evident that Parker caught that fleeting glance. He chuckled lightly and graciously opened his arms to display his attire. Just a little personal preference. I hope it doesn't make you laugh, Your Excellency. His tone was relaxed. I've recently taken an interest in the vintage clothing of Longhua, especially this style known as the Zhongshan suit. I find it dignified, reserved, and steady, though I fear my skills are lacking. I hope it doesn't come across as too abrupt or disrespectful. This seemingly casual remark actually carried multiple layers of meaning. Lu Ling understood instantly but still corrected him. Mr. Parker, this is the Zhongshan suit, not the Shanzhong suit. Parker's smile momentarily faltered, quickly transforming into genuine contrition as he realized his mistake. I see. I mixed up such an important name. I truly apologize. He readily admitted his error and immediately used the correct term, showing a willingness to learn. So, it's the Zhongshan suit. It seems I need to brush up on my Longhua culture lessons. Names are merely labels. What matters is the sentiment behind them. Lu Ling maintained his steady tone, scanning the room with seriousness, and continued, it is indeed rare to appreciate such a dignified and reserved style. A flicker of sharpness flashed in Parker's golden pupils as he understood Lu Ling's underlying message. True dignity and restraint do not merely lie in appearances. Yet his smile broadened, and those golden eyes perfectly concealed any tumult beneath. You are right. Parker immediately gestured invitingly. Please, follow me. As I mentioned earlier, I wish to personally welcome you and extend my hospitality. Lu Ling nodded slightly and walked alongside Parker. Andre and Parker's attendants followed at a distance. Their dialogue, while seemingly polite and harmonious, was laced with subtle undertones, each phrase hiding a probing of strength, stance, and intent. This conversation had already begun from the moment they met. Chapter 96. The gentleman is open and honest. The meeting was brief, yet meaningful. Parker did not rush into the main topic. It felt more like a ceremonial warm-up. He then signaled for a waiting maid to step forward, speaking in a calm tone. Your Excellency Lu Ling, the dinner is ready. Please allow Cinderlin to guide you, and take a moment to refresh yourself. The woman named Cinderlin approached gracefully. She was tall and upright, with impeccable poise and striking beauty, resembling a highly customized humanoid creation from a game Lu Ling had played. With golden hair, grayish-white eyes like Andre's, and fair, translucent skin, her gaze was calm and gentle. Your Excellency, please follow me, Cinderlin said in a soft, pleasant voice. Lu Ling cast a meaningful glance at Parker, then nodded and followed Cinderlin to the upper VIP area of the warship. As the hover lift ascended, Lu Ling noticed that the ship was bustling with people, all in various uniforms representing different departments, busy yet orderly. However, upon arriving at the designated floor, the surroundings suddenly fell silent and empty. They entered an extremely spacious suite, about 200 square meters, luxuriously yet subtly decorated, with a faint scent of wood in the air. Young Master Parker has prepared more suitable attire for you. Please take a bath and change, Cinderlin said respectfully, slightly bowing. If you need any assistance, please feel free to ask. Wasn't that a bit insincere? Lu Ling glanced at her before looking toward the changing room. There hung a brand new men's suit, exquisitely crafted, with cuts, styles, and even details that subtly reflected the characteristics of a certain period from old Earth, clearly the result of careful study and replication. Accompanying it were matching shoes and accessories. Parker's thoughtfulness was evident everywhere. No need, Lu Ling replied. Cinderlin respectfully exited the room, and the cabin door slowly closed. Lu Ling looked out the porthole. The Justice had begun its jump. Meanwhile, in the strategic deployment center of the Justice, the door slid open, and Parker walked in with a frown. What's the urgent matter? Everyone immediately stood up to salute, and then Crowd rose, looking serious. Young Master, that ship has appeared again. It's on the outskirts of Blackwater Bay. It attacked the escort fleet of Longshield Security. Longshield? A look of surprise flashed in Parker's golden eyes. Is it the one commissioned by the Smiling Ghost? Exactly. The main screen of the Strategic Deployment Center switched instantly. The image shook slightly, with the background showing the outer region of the shattered star ring. At the center of the image was the enormous, cold, and industrially violent-looking mysterious battleship, the Death Spiral class. One shot destroyed a corvette. Another shot pierced through a destroyer. The video ended. Parker squinted. Why is the cruiser unharmed? Long Shield has surrendered. Parker remained silent, his usual calmness and smile fading, leaving only seriousness and a hint of heat in his eyes. The strategic department has analyzed that its shields suffered almost no damage. Just like when I ordered concentrated fire, it wasn't a jump mirage, but rather withstood 160,000 cruise missiles. Strategic experts had previously speculated that the most likely explanation was a jump afterimage, which was why Parker had asked Crow to compensate for those 160,000 missiles, as no one believed it. Now, the conclusion was confirmed. The facts were laid bare, leaving no room for debate. Parker withdrew his gaze. Leaning back in his seat, surveying the room filled with senior officers from the Zhuangbai family, tactical and strategic deployment experts, all experienced. Are you saying that my Zhuangbai family's two fully staffed fleets cannot breach its defenses? Crowed, a veteran who had fought for decades, showed confusion for the first time on his face. I'm afraid so. The first recorded appearance, 1652, week 34, day 3, at 16:47:54. The appearance time of Blackwater Bay, 16:48:48. Gasp. Everyone was taken aback. 54 seconds. From the graveyard base to Blackwater Bay? The distance of 118 Australian dollars was astonishingly covered in just 54 seconds. The entire strategic deployment center fell into a deathly silence. Even the fastest ship from the local fleet would take about 30 minutes for 118 Australian dollars. Therefore, Claude was completely bewildered. A chief scientist responsible for navigation and astrophysics turned pale, his lips trembling, almost instinctively murmuring, "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible." 118 Australian dollars in 54 seconds, the average speed. This far exceeds the theoretical limits of conventional jump engines, even surpassing the maximum speeds of any known hyperspace drive model. This violates the 4 laws of jumping. Could it be an instrument error? There must be a problem with the timestamp synchronization. 54 seconds. Parker repeated this number, and in his golden eyes, there was only an extreme fervor. Our guest has been at the graveyard base during this time, right? Yes, several female slaves collected by the Red Army have gone missing. Suddenly, he laughed out loud, stood up, and clapped his hands in hearty laughter. Everyone was taken aback, exchanging puzzled glances, not understanding why their master had suddenly lost his mind. Someone looked towards the medical officer, only to find the medical officer equally bewildered. It's not the master. Everything was normal just 2 hours ago. However, 2 guards had already appeared, ready to drag him away for questioning. Enough. Parker suddenly fell silent, regaining his usual calm demeanor. The medical officer breathed a sigh of relief, almost losing his head. Parker's expression was calm, but at that moment, he was filled with immense confidence. I understand that sentence now. Is it? Everyone showed questioning expressions, and even the confused Claude quickly returned to normal. A gentleman is open and above board, while a petty person has no fortune. Parker said seriously, the master is amazing. As expected of the master. Nothing can stump the master. This obscure ancient text was easily deciphered by the master. The master is invincible. I want to be the master's dog. You wish. It should be General Claude first. Fair point. I'm so envious of General Claude. Not far away, Claude's face was dark with frustration. Cough. With Parker's raised hand, the strategic deployment center immediately fell silent again. A hint of coldness passed through Parker's golden eyes as he scanned everyone around. All were silent, waiting for his orders. Continuing the discussion is meaningless. Parker's voice was very calm. Immediately destroy all records, sign the confidentiality agreements, administer the forgetfulness drug, and silence anyone who knows. Stop the Dragon Shield fleet. Don't let them leave the local area. Handle this carefully and leave no traces. For any diplomatic matters, have Dragon Shield come to me. And eliminate the smiling face as well. This matter is of the highest confidentiality. It must be kept secret. Understood? Understood. Everyone replied in unison, the atmosphere tense. Parker nodded. But what he said next was unexpected for everyone. Everyone, he said slowly, his voice not loud but clear enough for everyone to hear. All our previous plans and calculations have lost their meaning in the face of those 54 seconds. What we are facing is not a warship that can be destroyed or captured, nor a technician from an organization we can manipulate at will. What we are up against is an existence whose limits of power we cannot comprehend. To be enemies with such an existence is foolish. Attempting to scheme against it is a path to self-destruction. Parker's gaze swept over the crowd. Therefore, I have decided to change our strategy. Parker took a deep breath, his tone more sincere and serious than ever before. From now on, everyone must treat our guest, His Excellency Lu Ling, with the utmost honesty and respect. We will meet all his reasonable requests and provide all the resources he needs. We will show him the greatest sincerity and friendship from the Zhuanbei family, rather than schemes and calculations. Because only sincerity can lead to sincerity. Only with equality and respect can we stand alongside such power. After Parker finished speaking, the entire strategic center fell silent. The officers exchanged glances, having never seen the young master display such an attitude before, just as they had never seen that mysterious battleship. But Parker's eyes told them this was an order, a significant decision for the future of the Zhuanbei family, and everything else must yield to this decision. All right, you all continue your work. There will be 5 times the bonus at the end of the year. Parker adjusted his collar, a smile returning to his face, this time lacking some of its usual facade, replaced by a hint of genuine anticipation and seriousness. I'm off to the banquet. Remember, from now on, the Zhuanbei family's attitude towards Lu Ling is one of sincerity and openness. Anyone who acts dishonorably, I will deal with them. For men, I will take decisive action. For women, I will consult His Excellency Lu Ling first. Chapter 97. The dishonorable man's dismay in the luxurious and grand banquet hall. The soft glow of the crystal chandeliers illuminated the silver cutlery and crystal glasses, making them shine brilliantly. On the long table, carefully prepared dishes attempting to replicate the flavors of Longhua filled the air with enticing aromas. As Lu Ling entered the banquet hall under the guidance of Zindalin, Parker was already waiting by the main seat. Parker's attitude seemed to have subtly changed. It seemed he had made the right decision. However, Lu Ling would not recklessly confirm this based on a small change. Necessary caution had been ingrained in him. Parker still wore that distinctive Zhongshan suit, but the deliberately enthusiastic demeanor seemed to have faded somewhat. The dining table was not very large, about 3 meters long, luxurious yet understated, classical and dignified. Your Excellency Lu Ling, please have a seat, Parker said with a smile, his movements natural and fluid, without a trace of pretense. I hope this outfit still fits you well. Thank you, Mr. Parker. I really like it, Lu Ling replied calmly, taking a seat at the guest position. He noticed that Parker did not rush to pick up his chopsticks, but instead raised his wine glass first. Once again, welcome to your presence. Parker raised his glass, this time with an unmistakable sincerity in his gaze, along with a natural admiration for strength. Lord Lu, I think I understand the ancient saying you mentioned earlier. Oh. Lu's gaze shifted slightly as he raised his glass, both of them taking a sip. The servers quietly approached to serve the dishes, and the exquisite food was placed on the plates. A gentleman is open-hearted, while a petty person has no fortune. Lu's fingers paused imperceptibly. He swore he had truly said it offhand. Parker's tone became very serious. At first, I thought it was just an ancient admonition about morality and tolerance. But only just now did I suddenly realize the deeper meaning of this saying. You say? Lu's eyes fixed on the dishes and suddenly stopped. Huh. Is this tomato scrambled eggs? He reached out to pick up a piece, and the nostalgic taste hit him, but unfortunately, it only resembled the form without the essence. Parker, however, was very focused, genuinely expressing his views. When faced with overwhelming power and wisdom, any calculation, concealment, and indirect probing are merely the ways of a petty person, adding only laughter and eventually leading one into difficulties and passivity. His gaze refocused on Lu, carrying an almost open-hearted sincerity, only by embodying the spirit of a gentleman. Opening one's heart, treating others with sincerity, and discarding unnecessary tricks, can one perhaps earn true respect and the possibility of dialogue. After saying this, Parker quietly looked at Lu, waiting for his reaction. Parker, you are still probing. Lu noticed the beef, smiled faintly, and thought, well, I can understand. Perhaps it is intrinsic to you. But being a gentleman is not so easy. Parker did not refute this, deeply agreeing. I am the first heir of the Zhuangbai family, bound by power, and I have grown accustomed to this. This is my fate, as you said, which indeed does not qualify me as a gentleman. However, he became serious. I wish to make friends with you, Lord Lu, in my personal capacity, not as the heir of Zhuangbai. Thank you for accepting my invitation. The banquet hall quieted down, with only the faint sounds of distant servers' footsteps and the clinking of cutlery. After hearing Parker's words, Lu maintained a neutral expression. He picked up the silver chopsticks and gently stirred the carefully crafted, bright red dompa pork on his plate. Parker, I don't eat beef. The seriousness and anticipation on Parker's face instantly froze, a rare look of genuine shock and confusion flashing in his golden eyes. He instinctively glanced at the plate of beef, then back at Lu's calm face, his mind racing to interpret the deeper meaning behind this simple statement. Lu watched his reaction, and the corner of his mouth seemed to curve up slightly, but the arc vanished too quickly, fast enough to make one think it was an illusion. Ha ha ha, just kidding. Lu picked up the beef and placed it in the bowl. I received Master Parker's sincerity. Upon hearing this, Parker's tense nerves relaxed a bit, but he still felt that Lu's words were not entirely a joke. Please just call me Parker from now on, Lord Lu. Parker. Let me tell you the true meaning of that sentence. Parker immediately sat up straight, his expression focused like the most earnest student. Please enlighten me. That sentence is not about a petty person having no fortune. Lu Ling's voice was clear and steady, echoing in the quiet banquet hall, as he repeated the pronunciation accurately. Chi-Chi represents worry, fear, and the feeling of gain and loss. Lu Ling explained that it means a gentleman has an open mind and acts with integrity, while a petty person is calculative, always filled with anxiety and unease. Respect is indeed a part of a gentleman's openness. Parker listened quietly, immersed in thought. Lu Ling was quite hungry. Even though his genetic level had reached F, humans could not stop consuming energy. On the contrary, they needed to intake more. Unless the gene sequences related to metabolism were unlocked. Thank you for your correction, Your Excellency Lu Ling. After we finish our meal, shall we discuss cooperation? It would be my utmost sincerity and friendship. Meanwhile, deep within the solitary grave base, in the dungeon corridor, the air was thick as iron. A suffocating mix of blood and oil. The walls were marked with charred scars from energy weapons, and dark red stains on the floor had not fully dried, telling of a fierce struggle that had recently taken place. At the end of the corridor, a heavy alloy isolation door slowly slid open with a dull scraping sound. The first thing that caught the eye was a nearly 3-meter-tall, precision medical capsule resembling an upright crystal coffin, filled with a viscous liquid rich in high-concentration nutrients and nanorepair machinery. At the core of this life support device floated the true master of the Crimson Devil, Rachel. His plump face was not fully covered by newly formed tissue, showing a strange pink hue. But the coldness and violence belonging to the master of the Crimson Devil sparkled in his small green eyes. Raikin, his biological son, had pushed this 3-meter medical capsule out. Having buried a dark nail beside Feng Ling for 10 years, he had returned. Despite the cost of rivers of blood within the base, a drastic reshuffle of power, and the fall of countless confidants, even though external struggles had not yet settled. But he, Rachel, had ultimately reclaimed everything that belonged to him, stepping on the corpses of betrayers. Father, Raikin's voice was steady and deep. The Zhuangbai fleet has withdrawn. From the communicator inside the medical capsule, Rachel replied in a muffled voice with a bubbling tone. He kept his word. These 38 million star coins were not spent in vain. What about Lucius and the others? They are on their way. Raikin answered, seemingly remembering something suddenly. Sarah has been placed in solitary confinement in the black cage. Inside the medical capsule, a complex light suddenly erupted in Rachel's small eyes. There was deep-seated hatred, the pain of betrayal, and even a trace of an indelible, twisted possessiveness. He had once genuinely loved this thorny rose, granting her power and favor, yet she had plunged the poisoned thorn into his heart when he was at his weakest. In the past, I want to see this wretched woman. Yes. Raikin pushed the medical capsule into a deeper, more guarded side corridor. Chapter 98, Cleansing the Hands. 10 minutes ago, the naval forces had just departed. The great devil slowly came to a halt at the edge of the solitary grave base. The base was in ruins. Its exterior armor shattered, with large gaping wounds continuously spewing debris and unextinguished flames. The dull sound of explosions echoed from the internal passages, and the entire structure groaned under the strain, as if it could collapse at any moment and swallow everything. Inside the bridge, Lucius remained impeccably dressed in a dark silver high-collared uniform, spotless. Outside the porthole was a hell of flames. Chief of Staff. The voice of the adjutant broke the silence. The internal signals of the base were extremely chaotic. Resistance was ongoing, but in a state of collapse, with multiple unidentified forces engaged in a shootout inside. The life signal of the chief was weak, isolated in the medical center of Area B7. The final report indicated that fewer than 1,000 of Sarah's subordinates remained, engaged in fierce battles on multiple fronts against the villain gang and remnants of the Black Sail, suffering heavy casualties. A barely perceptible smile curved at the corner of Lucius's mouth. Everything was as expected. What he needed was this chaotic moment. An opportunity to turn the tide and redefine loyalty and value. Issue orders, he said with calm confidence. First and second assault teams, target the B7 Medical Center. Clear all obstacles. Ensure the absolute safety of Lady Rachel. Third and fourth teams, head straight for the core command area, suppress all resistance, and capture Sarah alive. The remaining units will control all major passages and ports. Any non-allied life signals are to be eliminated without question. Understood. The belly hatch of the Great Devil slowly opened, and over 2,000 Red Devil pirates boarded the assault boats. This force had always been the backbone of Rachel's power. Lucius was grateful that he hadn't sacrificed this elite unit to intercept Feng Ling in Blackwater Bay. The key was that he had perfectly avoided all crises during the previous purges and subsequent battles. At this moment, these pirates, at the peak of their strength, surged like drawn blades, filled with long-accumulated battle intent, charging fiercely towards the crumbling den of death. Simultaneously, in a cabin within the Great Devil. Temporarily converted into a medical isolation area, the atmosphere was tense and oppressive. The heavy scent of disinfectant mixed with a faint smell of blood. The Mamba lay on a makeshift medical bed, his face pale from blood loss and pain. Siler stood silently beside him, listening to the ongoing assembly broadcasts from the ship. His brow furrowed. Sarah was finished, and those opportunistic villains were done for. The Black Sail was also finished. Rachel would reclaim the Red Devils and surely absorb the remaining pirates, strengthening their power. By then, new blood would replace the crippled. And there would be no place for either of us in the Red Devils. The Mamba slowly turned his head, the movement unusually difficult due to his weakness. His gaze somewhat unfocused. There were no more medicines available for treatment aboard the ship, and his injuries were worsening. Siler, I'm tired. Sailor was slightly taken aback and looked at him. Don't you want to kill Sarah with your own hands? She almost took your life. The Mamba's gaze pierced through the wall, lost in thought. Rachel will torment her endlessly. After a moment of silence, Sailor nodded. Yes. The cabin fell silent again, with only the faint hum of the medical equipment and the heavy breathing of the Mamba. After a while, the Mamba's gaze seemed to focus a bit more, staring at the cold metal panel on the ceiling, murmuring as if talking to himself, or perhaps to Sailor. Sailor, do you remember? Last time, at Neon Harbor, we were drunk and said those things? Sailor didn't answer, just quietly watched him. The Mamba continued, his eyes somewhat unfocused, as if lost in memories. Once I save enough money, I'll wash my hands of this and leave this hellhole for those remote colonial satellites, buy a clean identity. Open a small bar, maybe get a garage. He smiled faintly, which caused pain and triggered a violent cough. A sickly flush appearing on his pale face. Or maybe just buy a farm and raise those Shishiru long-haired sheep that just eat and sleep. Cough, cough, cough. Sailor stepped forward and offered a glass of water, but the Mamba weakly shook his head. Now I haven't saved enough money, and I'm about to lose my life. It's really ridiculous. Sailor silently observed the Mamba, watching the torment in his eyes from excruciating pain and despair, reduced to ashes, and the fleeting, almost illusory longing that flickered at the corners of his mouth when he mentioned the Shishiru long-haired sheep. The ship's announcement sounded again, coldly reporting that the assault team was fully engaged in a fierce battle. Time was running out. Sailor's gaze suddenly sharpened. He leaned down, his voice low, almost touching the Mamba's ear, speaking quickly and clearly. Old Snake, do you really want to wash your hands of this? The Mamba's dazed eyes focused for a moment as he looked at him blankly. What? Right now? Sailor's eyes burned with a desperate resolve. Lucius's men were all outside. The ship was empty, with no patrols. This was the only chance. He quickly glanced toward the hatch and continued urgently. Listen, we'll go out shortly. I found a corpse in the cold storage that looks almost like me. The face is already rotten. Just wear my command bracelet. Take my body. Report that Sailor was killed by Sarah's people. The Mamba's pupils contracted sharply, and his breath momentarily halted. This plan was too crazy, too bold. But the burning flame of survival in Sailor's eyes, along with the faint desire for the Shishiru long-haired sheep deep in his heart, acted like two straws that broke the dam of reason. You're insane. This plan has too many holes. How could Lucius? The Mamba's voice was hoarse and trembling. Sailor interrupted him, his tone resolute. That's all I see right now. Only Rachel and Sarah. Only how to seize power. If Sarah is eliminated, then I'll be the first under Rachel. You can't leave yet, but I can make a clean getaway first. Once I stabilize, we won't have to live like this anymore. The Mamba snake stared intensely at Sela, a fierce psychological struggle causing his weakened body to tremble slightly. Seconds later, he gritted his teeth and forced out a near-choking voice from deep in his throat. Damn it. I'm in. Where's the body? Help me up. The Mamba snake growled. Sela immediately exerted himself, struggling to lift him from the medical bed. Each movement pulled at the pain from his severed arm. And cold sweat broke out on the Mamba snake's forehead, but he clenched his teeth and didn't make a sound. The two stumbled out of the medical chamber, making their way toward the low-temperature storage area on the ship. Along the way, they hardly saw anyone. Sela quickly unlocked the refrigeration unit with his access rights, and cold white mist poured out, revealing several bodies covered with white cloth. Sela swiftly pulled back the cloth, his sharp gaze scanning quickly. Soon, he locked onto a body similar in build to his own, its face severely disfigured by the explosion, making it hard to identify. It's him. Without hesitation, Sela quickly took off his chief advisor wristband and pulled out a crypto identity chip the size of a fingernail from a hidden pouch, placing it in the corpse's hand and forcefully closing its stiff fingers around it. Then, he quickly removed his coat and wrapped it around the body. The Mamba snake, enduring the pain, used his one arm to help drag the corpse out of the cold storage, heavily dropping it on the ground. The two then pulled Sela's body toward a secluded maintenance chamber for assault boats, where a damaged boat awaited repair. Together, they stuffed the body into the narrow rear compartment. Their eyes met, heavy breaths echoing clearly in the empty maintenance room. From the moment the plan was proposed to its execution, It took less than 3 minutes. Yet the moment of separation came all too quickly. Old Snake, it's up to you now, Silas said solemnly, his expression complex. You're more important than me. I have to clean up the data and traces first. If I succeed, remember our code. The Mamba Snake stared blankly at him. Take care. Silas' choice was, in fact, more dangerous than his own. Avoidance is also a form of betrayal. Chapter 99. Rachel at the lone grave base, in the assembly square. Once chaotic and drenched in blood, filled with betrayal and slaughter, the square was now shrouded in a colder, more oppressive order. The air was thick with an indelible stench of blood. Emergency lights cast a pale glow, illuminating the dense crowd in the square. Nearly 10,000 Crimson Devil pirates stood at attention, while in the center were the remnants of the Blood Alliance, Black Sail, and the Villains Gang. Unlike the defeated Pirate Alliance, these factions immediately turned hostile upon entering the lone grave base. Backstabbing and ambushing each other were common, all in a bid to get to Rachel and Sarah first. However, the elite forces brought by Lucius changed the final outcome. Many eyes flickered, not daring to look directly at the high platform. The atmosphere so oppressive it felt like it could squeeze out water. Surrounding the square, Rachel's elite team stood at key positions, well-equipped and expressionless. Their pulse rifles lowered yet exuding an invisible deterrent, monitoring everyone in the square. Any disturbance will incur ruthless punishment. On the high platform, Rachel's corpulent body was fixed in a specially designed metal throne equipped with life support devices. He had forcibly left the medical pod that sustained his life. His newly formed right side appeared pale and swollen, in stark contrast to his left side, exuding a sense of frail rigidity. However, his small eyes, sunken in flesh, were sharp like a hawk, slowly scanning the crowd below. Lucius stood half a step behind Rachel's throne, his posture straight, his gaze calm behind golden-rimmed glasses, as if all the commotion, fear, and submission from below had long been calculated in his mind. On the other side stood Rinky, silently towering like an iron tower. At the front of the square, dozens of pirate leaders were kneeling, their hands bound behind their backs. They were the core followers of Sarah and Wanka, along with others who had foolishly attempted to take advantage of the chaos. At this moment, they all looked ashen, trembling uncontrollably, some even collapsing to the ground. Their pants soaked, emitting a foul stench. What awaited them was a public execution to serve as a warning. Execute, Lucius commanded. 10 burly executioners stepped forward, raising their heavy cleavers, and in a flash, heads rolled to the ground. Thick blood splattered on the cold ground, making a faint sizzling sound. Next, several pirates pushed a massive rectangular metal cabinet onto the stage. The cabinet was about 3 meters tall and 2 meters wide, made entirely of matte special alloy, perfectly sealed as if it were a solid block of metal, with no visible seams or observation windows. Yet this object rendered all the Red Devil pirates silent. Even the elite guards surrounding them seemed to hold their breath. It was the black cage. Even through the thick alloy shell, one could sense the despair and deathly silence emanating from within, sending chills to the soul. Lucius stepped forward, his gaze sweeping over the silent crowd below. His voice, amplified, resonated throughout every corner of the square. The rebellion has been quelled, and order has been re-established. Sarah conspired to rebel and imprison the leaders, a crime unforgivable. According to the 10th punishment of the Red Devils, she is sentenced to eternal confinement in the black cage. As his words fell, he gently raised his hand. An operator immediately entered commands on the control panel. The energy conduits connected to the black cage suddenly lit up with a blue glow, and the humming intensified. At the same time, the alloy shell facing the square became transparent in an instant. A gasp of shock rose from the crowd, with some unable to suppress terrified whispers. It was Sarah. However, at this moment, she had completely lost her regal demeanor, contorting and twitching violently. She seemed to be enduring unimaginable pain and torment. Frantically clawing at an invisible barrier, her mouth stretched wide in a silent scream, her eyes bulging with the utmost madness and despair. Inside the black cage, silence engulfed everything, devoid of any sound, with all perception completely stripped away, leaving no sense of up or down, left or right. Only an eternal, boundless darkness was visible, forever and ever, until consciousness utterly collapsed, cells aged, and the body finally withered away. This silent, absolutely isolating torture was more chilling than any bloody execution. The pirates in the square turned pale, many instinctively taking a step back, their eyes filled with primal fear. They would rather face a bullet to the head than be confined in that terrifying box. It was a torment of the soul. Lucius coldly observed the silent struggle within the black cage, as if examining a failed experimental sample. This was the fate of betrayal. His voice remained flat, yet it pierced each person's heart like an ice pick. He turned to Rachel, slightly bowing. "Leader, please give your instructions." "Well done, Lucius, you have done very well." Rachel's gaze swept once more over the hushed pirates below, and she slowly spoke, each word laden with heavy pressure. From today onwards, the Red Devil will have only one department, one voice. Those who follow me will live, those who defy me will die. Her voice echoed in the dead silence of the square. The pirates from the Black Sails, the Villains Gang, and the Blood Alliance all bowed their heads in submission. Those who did not were already dead. Lucius stepped forward at the right moment, beginning to announce new appointments and restructuring orders, disbanding and reorganizing the remnants of Sarah and Wanka's forces, placing his own trusted aides, and quickly establishing a new power structure centered around himself and Rachel. Let us start calling names. Chief of Staff, Mamba hasn't arrived yet. As soon as the words left his mouth, a staggering, heavy footstep echoed from the side corridor entrance. Everyone's gaze was instinctively drawn to it. Mamba emerged, almost dragging himself out. He was drenched in blood and grime, his face pale without a hint of color, with two horrifying bloodied holes in his shoulders, crudely bandaged, already soaked through with dark red. He could only use his left arm, which was tightly gripping a body clad in tattered uniform, its features unrecognizable. The leader, Rachel, squinted her bean-like eyes, looking down at Mamba, who resembled a blood-soaked figure. Silent, but scrutinizing. I and Advisor Sela have been holding back Sarah's followers, Mamba gasped, speaking in fits and starts. Advisor Sela, he was killed by Sarah's people. Lucius's gaze lingered on the body and the grief-stricken face of Mamba for a few seconds longer. Sir, how shall we proceed? He looked to Rachel. Rachel did not speak, merely waved her hand. Lucius understood. Captain Mamba, you are gravely injured and emotionally agitated. Please go down and receive treatment. As for Advisor Sela, he paused. Someone, take care of the body properly. Two pirates from the medical team immediately stepped forward, almost lifting the fainted Mamba. He did not resist, allowing them to drag him away, his head hanging low. Throughout the entire process, Lucius did not glance at the corpse again, while Rachel had long redirected her attention to the intimidation of the pirates below. In fact, the elaborate ploy designed by the Mamba seemed superfluous and clumsy in the eyes of these two individuals who truly held the reins of the situation. It was merely a clever pawn. Chapter 100. The ship arrives in the isolated base on the shadowed side of the asteroid. The remnants of a derelict dock floated in the void, its metallic framework twisted and broken, remnants left after the missile rain from Zhuangbai. Over 100 figures clung tightly to a cold isolation net, like trapped beasts on a spider's web. In the vacuum, thick frost had already formed on their helmet visors, with each breath leaving a fleeting mist on the surface. The silence was suffocating. Only the sporadic flashes of fire deep within the base reminded them that they were still on the edge of a battlefield. They had been waiting here for about 10 minutes. Rachel was surprisingly alive. What a tough life. If it weren't for the captain saving him, he would have already perished with that foul nest. But where was the captain now? Had he left them in this godforsaken place? Did the captain say to wait here? Unclear. When he left with Zhuangbai's people, he merely stated to stand by. At that moment, Bloodshark's gruff voice interrupted the channel. Damn it. If the captain says to wait, then just wait. Shut your mouths and keep your eyes sharp. Rachel's patrol could scan us at any moment. His words made everyone's hearts race. How much longer would they have to wait? Wait for what? Zhuangbai's transport ship? In this situation, who besides Zhuangbai would come? Who would dare to come? An inexplicable mixture of doubt and faint hope silently spread among the crowd. They ceased their conversations, gripping the cold iron net more tightly. Their gazes involuntarily directed toward the direction the captain had left, or further into the seemingly all-consuming darkness of deep space. Lien stood alone in the shadows a bit further away, where faint arcs of electricity occasionally leaped from the damaged areas of her nano-armor. The stored nano-repair fluid had long been exhausted, but fortunately, the lining had not failed. Her tactical visor continuously switched filtering modes, desperately searching for abnormal signals amidst the background radiation and battlefield interference. Her brow furrowed tighter. The universe was dark and boundless, an expanse of nothingness. Apart from the distant battlefield illuminated by fire, all that lay before her was eternal silence and darkness. It felt as if what they were waiting for was merely an elusive promise. My insulation layer seems to have failed, just as the words left her lips. Without any warning, a blinding flash of a jump emerged straight ahead. A shadow seemed to glide in on the light of the stars. Everyone clinging to the iron net froze, a tremor from deep within their souls causing them to gasp for breath. The shadow approached at a visible speed, the residual waves of the jump still rippling, its outline rapidly magnifying in their view, moving at an unreasonably fast pace. It glided smoothly through the void, its massive hull obscuring distant starlight, casting a shadow that expanded like a growing curtain, enveloping the entire dilapidated dock and the crowd upon it. Low-frequency vibrations resonated through the metal mesh, numbing bones and causing frost on the visors to shatter. This vessel was unimaginably large. Its sharply angled bow resembled a giant axe cleaving through the sea of stars, and the dark armor glinted with a cold sheen under the faint light. The enormous body extended backward, seemingly endless, while a pair of massive solar wings slowly adjusted their angles, with ethereal blue energy flowing along their edges. It silently hovered just under a kilometer away from the onlookers in the void. At this distance, every detail of the hull's armor was clearly visible, bringing an almost suffocating sense of oppression. All sensors remained silent, with no identification signals and no energy feedback, as if it were merely a pure physical presence. The channel was filled only with the stifled sounds of gasping and the roaring of each person's heartbeat. Bloodshark opened his mouth, his heavy breaths forming white mist inside the visor. A seasoned warrior, he had never felt such primal dread and awe as he did before this colossal ship. Lien stood frozen in place, while everyone else stared wide-eyed. A battleship? Someone gasped in disbelief. Everyone held their breath. Is it the captain's ship? Just then, powerful communication capabilities directly cut into their internal channel, revealing the voice of Zawena. Don't move, board the ship. Buzz. Immediately, beams of attraction locked onto each person, guiding them toward the landing bay of the massive vessel. Meanwhile, in the core of the base, Rachel, who had just completed a bloody purge and regained control, was immersed in the ultimate pleasure of power restored. He returned to the medical bay and had even begun issuing hoarse commands through the communication channel, settling scores, rewarding loyal subjects, and fantasizing about the most brutal ways to torment Sarah, about how to take revenge on Feng Ling and all the traitors. Lucius, immediately account for the warehouse. Report all losses to me. I want to see just how much that bitch Sarah and that wild dog Wanka have squandered. Also, pull up all surveillance from the base and clean out everything that has been feeding off us. Not a single one left. Buzz. Suddenly, the entire base trembled. Cups on the command center console bounced and shattered on the floor. A grinding groan echoed from the depths of the metal structure. What's happening? Such strong high-energy signal fluctuations. Enemy attack. Has Zhuanga returned? Impossible. Our sensors gave no warning. External impact. It's an external impact. Rachel was jolted up and down in the medical bay, the nutrient solution sloshing violently, nearly choking him in his newly formed lungs. Lucius's gaze flashed behind his golden-rimmed glasses as he issued the command. Capture with optical features. Yes, captured. Zoom in. The next moment, the entire command center fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes widened as an enormous battleship, larger than imaginable, was closely positioned against the asteroid of the isolated base. From this angle, its bow armor seemed almost to touch the outer shell of the base, its streamlined silhouette exuding an absolute aesthetic of violence. The dark, matte armor appearing as if it could absorb all detection waves, and the massive solar wings slowly adjusting their angle, with edges flowing with eerie blue energy. Is this a battleship? One leader murmured in a daze, his voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to wake something. No matching signals found in the database. Switched to the monitoring of the asteroid. Only Lucius remained relatively calm. The data from the asteroid collection site has been lost. Everyone held their breath. Is it coming from the Red Demon? Rachel stood frozen in the medical cabin, her small, green bean-like eyes filled only with fear. Look, there are people. On the screen, some individuals dressed in red military attire were slowly flying towards the battleship. Rachel's pupils suddenly constricted to the size of a pinhead. Is it Feng Ling? How is that possible? A bone-chilling cold rushed up her spine. Rinky, father, run, quickly, help me up, escape. Wait, Lucius suddenly spoke up. Buzz. The battleship slowly turned and moved forward, smoothly disappearing from sight after a few seconds. What is this? Chapter 101, Carthage. The observation deck at the top of the Justice-class battleship seemed to float among the stars. The arched dome presented the vast universe without reservation. Distant nebulae resembling spilled silver powder, tranquil and profound. After dinner, Parker invited Lu Ling to this place, where they lay side by side on the luxurious, soft sofa. Behind the sofa, two pretty-looking maidservants knelt, their fingers precisely pressing on the acupoints of their shoulders and necks, their fair hands continuously kneading with forceful joints. Clearly genetically modified, their strength and technique were perfectly comfortable. Oh, damn feudal imperialism. Lu Ling took the crystal glass handed to her by a maidservant, the pale golden liquid swaying slightly under the starlight. Compared to the desolate outer regions, the scenery here was finally worth seeing. Parker raised his glass in a toast. Outside the porthole, the ripples of the transition channel were slowly dissipating. Lu Ling had already seen the bright outline of the planet, the capital star of the Zhuangbai Autonomous Territory, Carthage. With a barely perceptible tremor, the Justice-class battleship had exited the transition, and the planet before them was rapidly enlarging. Its emerald green land and azure oceans gently divided by meandering white atmospheric veins. This planet was similar in size to the old Earth. but its ecological environment had clearly undergone a high level of transformation and maintenance. The Emerald Land was neatly organized and vibrant. Numerous ecological agricultural zones resembled the finest velvet carpets, and the vast, clear blue ocean reflected a stunning array of colors under the starlight, showing no signs of pollution or chaotic currents. The atmospheric veins were not natural clouds, but rather a magnificent projection of a giant artificial climate control network and high-altitude floating traffic regulation channels in the atmosphere. They are like intricate leaf veins, gently yet absolutely controlling the breath and rhythm of the entire planet, ensuring it remains in the most suitable state forever. Lu Ling was stunned. This planet is breathtakingly beautiful. After waking for more than 200 days, he finally saw the land of the planet today. He had drifted in artificial gravity or space for far too long. His gaze greedily swept over the vibrant greens and the vast blues, as if he wanted to breathe in the air that might exist from a distance, filled with the fragrance of plants and moisture. This is a longing etched in his genes, a sense of belonging stemming from the instinct of life, a comfort that could never be attained while curled up in the cold steel ship. However, this planet, or rather the land, is a forbidden zone for pirates. Zhuangbai would not allow those pests in the gaps of space to pollute its purity. How does the scenery here compare to the capital star circle of the Earth Federation? The cradle of human origins? Parker suddenly asked. Earth. Lu Ling fell into a trance, as if everything before him was just a dream. Very far away. At that moment, the fleet leaped forward and began to glide ahead. Lu Ling saw dozens of warships on both sides escorting the Justice toward the planet's orbit. Lu Ling gazed at this steel torrent, a hint of barely noticeable heat flickering in his eyes. Parker smiled, taking the cool tea from the server's hand and refilling Lu Ling's cup. Your Excellency Lu Ling, the story hasn't ended yet. Lu Ling came back to his senses. Where did we leave off? How did the ancient giant PIBC, the Pangalactic Commercial Community, meet its demise? Seeing him build tall towers, seeing him host guests, seeing his towers collapse. What an interesting metaphor. Was that 3V really that powerful? The collapse of an empire is often due to internal decay and unlimited external forces. Just giving it a little push. Lu Ling picked up the slender crystal cup and took a sip. Throughout the entire process, his tone was steady, without any emotional fluctuations, as if he were recounting someone else's story. Now it was Parker's turn to fall into a trance, murmuring, Your Excellency Lu Ling, did you end up here at the Silver Shield border by coincidence due to the collapse of the Great War? But such a powerful warship is merely cannon fodder in the Orion Essence star domain. That Divine-class Titan doomsday weapon is truly terrifying. Just as Parker was about to say more, the scene outside the porthole changed dramatically. The perfect, flawless, and stunningly blue outline of the Carthage star grew larger. And then a massive steel structure appeared in the field of vision, getting closer as the Justice glided. This is a true city of steel, a monumental work of human engineering, standing majestically in orbit around the planet. The kind of space junk station pieced together from dilapidated docks and abandoned ships in Blackwater Bay cannot be compared at all. Its design is filled with the Zhuangbai family's signature cold efficiency, luxurious restraint, and pragmatic aesthetics. The main body consists of multiple rectangular modules, each spanning several dozen kilometers, rigidly connected by exceptionally sturdy structural trusses. Inside, high-speed magnetic levitation tracks, thick energy conduits, and cooling circuits resemble the skeleton and arteries of a colossal city. As the distance narrows, the details of this immense construct come into view, showcasing breathtaking grandeur and prosperity. The outer shell of the starport is made of heavy composite armor in deep gray, with a surface covered in orderly grid-like light strips, outlining an incredibly clear geometric silhouette in deep space. Countless ships of various sizes move in an orderly fashion like returning bees, merging into different docking channels along designated flight paths, creating a scene that is both organized and full of vibrant energy. The flagship began to decelerate. Parker, upon seeing the outline, couldn't help but reveal a hint of pride on his face. He leaned back slightly, raised his chin, and gazed out the window with an appreciation akin to admiring a treasured artwork. Look, Your Excellency Lu Ling, this is the Carthage starport of the Zhuangbai family. With a length of 120 kilometers, the core energy units can operate for centuries. Quite impressive, isn't it? Parker stood up, stating that nearly 10,000 starships dock here daily for resupply and trade, consolidating and circulating the wealth of the entire Zhuangbai family. Lu Ling stood up and moved to the edge of the porthole, looking down. Countless starships flowed through the channels in an orderly manner, akin to swimming fish. Traversing along the illuminated paths, Parker joined him, looking down as well. Over there, he pointed to a particularly solemn area at one end of the starport, brightly lit yet tranquil. The building modules there had sharper angles and were emblazoned with the enormous emblem of the Zhuangbai family, a one-eyed eagle grasping a planet. That was the Eagle's Nest, the headquarters of the Zhuangbai Navy. Parker's tone rose slightly with pride. Here lies 1/3 of the Zhuangbai main fleet. Lu Ling then spotted 2 massive Martyr-class battleships undergoing maintenance, indicating that the Zhuangbai family has at least 8 or more battleships. Yet, Zhuangbai is merely one of the 24-star regions and one of 8,000 counts within the empire. Above counts are marquises, and above marquises are dukes, even grand duchies. Just how powerful must the entire empire be? However, for now, this was irrelevant to Lu Ling. As long as he had money, his fleet could grow exponentially. This is the cornerstone of the order of our Zhuangbai family. Parker's voice pulled Lu Ling back from his thoughts. The fleet that had just jumped back was gradually docking. Platinum-colored warships standing in layers. The flagship was no exception, with its docking bay being a dedicated closed space, extending up to 2 kilometers. As they slowly docked, Lu Ling followed Parker off the ship. Chapter 102. Sindarin passing through the brightly lit connecting corridor, the emblem of the Zhuangbai family glimmered coldly on the metal walls, with 2 rows of armed guards standing straight on either side. As the group stepped into the interior of the starport, the sight before them left even Lu Ling momentarily breathless. Beneath the towering dome lay a world far beyond his imagination. The hover vehicle glided silently along an invisible track, with personnel in various uniforms attending to their tasks in different functional areas. The entire environment was efficient, clean, and filled with an undeniable sense of order. Parker was clearly very familiar with this place. As he walked, he introduced some key areas to Lu Ling, his tone filled with pride. Just then, a sleek, understated silver luxury vehicle silently approached and came to a stop in front of them. Its exterior seemed to be made of liquid metal, shimmering subtly under the lights. With no visible wheels, hovering half a foot above the ground, exuding a sense of understated yet extreme luxury. "My friend," Parker said with a smile, gesturing for Lu Ling to enter. The amount involved in their cooperation was substantial and detailed, and he needed to discuss it carefully with his father and the council to ensure a solid foundation for their partnership. "Please make sure to rest well tonight." He stepped aside, indicating for Lu Ling to look at the vehicle and the quietly standing Cinderlin nearby. "Oh," Lu Ling was somewhat surprised, waiting for Parker to elaborate. "This is your mode of transport. It will take you to our family's finest estate. The night view of Carthage from the air is quite a sight, and I believe you will enjoy it," Parker continued, his gaze shifting to Cinderlin, his tone taking on a more significant meaning. As for Cinderlin, he smiled slightly, his tone akin to introducing a precious gift. "She is one of the most outstanding artificial beings from our family, proficient in multiple star systems, ethnic languages, and etiquette, with extensive knowledge of Carthage and the entire Cassiopeia constellation. She will be your guide and assistant during your time in Carthage, responsible for meeting all your needs." An artificial being? Lu Ling scrutinized Cinderlin, who indeed appeared nearly unreal in her perfection at first sight. However, Andre did not seem the same. Both had grayish-white eyes. "Consider this a small gift from me." Parker stepped forward slightly, his tone smooth, "in the beginning of our friendship and cooperation. I hope she can help you acclimate more quickly and make your journey with us more enjoyable." His words were tactful, clearly indicating the intent of the gift while elevating it to the level of friendship and cooperation, appearing both generous and measured. "Since you are so courteous, what can I say?" Cinderlin appropriately bowed slightly, performing an impeccable gesture towards Lu Ling. Her grayish-white eyes were calm and focused. "In the future, I wish to serve you, Lord Lu Ling. Your every need will be my highest priority." She then opened the spacious gull-wing door of the vehicle for Lu Ling. Parker nodded in satisfaction and elegantly bowed to bid farewell. "Then I won't disturb you any longer, Lord Lu Ling. Please enjoy the night in Carthage. See you tomorrow." The interior of the vehicle was extremely spacious, with seats made from a kind of adaptive biological material that instantly conformed to the body's shape. It was 100 times better than the experience at Blackwater Bay, with interiors in soft white and brown, full of technological flair, yet comfortable. Indeed, a significant estate owner. Cinderlin sat beside him, her posture elegant and standard, a faint fragrance wafting through the air. "The flying car here is unmanned." According to Sindarin, this unmanned driving system is called ADS 9999, capable of adapting to any environment and various emergencies. The flying car is lightweight, and sitting in it strangely creates no sensation of weightlessness. It feels comfortable and pleasant. It speeds away from the military control zone and enters the bustling starport, where flying cars suddenly become numerous, bringing with them a wave of vibrant sci-fi ambience. However, everything here is very orderly, operating at a certain height above the ground. Unlike the chaos of Blackwater Bay, where everything is governed by rules. "Your Excellency, we are about to enter the Celestial Path, a deep space high-speed route connecting the starport and the surface of the planet Carthage." Cindarin's voice is soft and steady, like a professional secretary. Lu Ling sees the azure outline of Carthage already appearing in the distance. In the next moment, the flying car seems to be captured by an invisible force and is instantly propelled forward. Behind them, the starport grows increasingly distant, replaced by a breathtaking expanse of depth and vastness. Outside the window, other flying cars occasionally flash by like streaks of light. Perhaps only the approaching land can bring Lu Ling a sense of reassurance. Is the power of the flying car insufficient for independent round trips between the ground and the sky? Lu Ling questions, feeling the acceleration far beyond what a typical flying car engine can provide. You have keen observation, Your Excellency, Sindarin explains professionally. The fusion engine of the flying car alone is indeed not efficient enough for round trips from the starport to the surface atmosphere. However, the celestial path is not a simple route. It is a large-scale active public high-speed transport system. Soon, a ramp wall appears, shimmering with blue energy ripples on both sides, and their speed begins to rise sharply yet smoothly. We are currently within a directed energy field conduit maintained jointly by the starport and surface base stations. She gestures towards the colorful passage wall outside the window, like vehicles entering a highway in the old days, relying on the flat surface and internal combustion engine power. Here, the surface energy channel itself provides the main propulsion field and guidance, making the flying car more like a unit being intelligently transported on a track, ensuring efficiency, safety, and energy savings. Outside, the blue energy ripples flow swiftly, and the flying car shoots into the main channel like a bullet. The speed stabilizes instantly at a very high cruising value, with the planet Carthage magnifying outside the window at an astonishing rate. The azure ocean and green continent rushing towards them, even revealing the silhouettes of some magnificent surface buildings. According to the latest census, Carthage has a natural population of 14.2 billion, including a significant number of new humans, making it the political, economic, and cultural core of the entire Junbei. What about slaves? Lu Ling inquires. Slaves are not counted as part of the population, Your Excellency. In asset classification, they are categorized as movable property. After a brief silence, Lu Ling gazes out at the increasingly close, vibrant planet and asks the question that has been on his mind. Why is it called Carthage? Sindarin answers fluently. The name originates from the founding ancestor of the Zhuangbai family, His Excellency Julian Bellamy of Carthage, 2,000 years ago. When he first led a fleet to discover and conquer a habitable planet located at the edge of the Silver Shield Arm, then designated as GTX-7, he made this decision. Her voice flowed steadily within the cabin, as the rapidly moving planetary scenery outside served as a silent backdrop to her words. According to the records left by the ancestor Julian in the Pioneer's Journal, he was deeply fascinated by the history of ancient Earth. He believed that the fate of the Zhuangbai family bore a striking resemblance to that of Carthage, a powerful commercial and maritime nation during the Mediterranean era of ancient Earth. It was a city-state civilization known for its commercial talent, navigational skills, unyielding will, and thirst for wealth and expansion, which established an empire spanning across oceans through an exceptional trade network and a formidable fleet. Sindarin's narration quickly stirred Lu Ling's memories, accurately outlining a historical mirror that spanned the seas of stars. Ancestor Julian believed that the Zhuangbai family also relied on commerce, using fine ships and mastery over trade routes and markets to pioneer and defend their territory at the chaotic edge of the Silver Shield Arm. Thus, he named this planet, symbolizing a new beginning for the family, Carthage. At the same time, in the Zhuangbai Oath, this name also serves as a warning to future heirs not to repeat the history of Carthaginian civilization, avoiding internal division and eventual downfall. She paused slightly, her grayish-white eyes calmly gazing at Lu Ling. This is a cultural quest for roots and symbolism, Your Excellency. Although from a strict genealogical perspective, there is no way to confirm any direct blood relation between the family members and the ancient Carthaginians. The ancestor firmly believed that we are their spiritual successors, a continuation of them in the starry sea. Thus, this name has been retained to this day, becoming the capital star of the Zhuangbai Dominion, and a symbol of the family's power and glory. I see, Lu Ling couldn't help but applaud. Now, that's called professionalism. At the same time, he fell into contemplation. Damn it, how come these imperial nobles are so different from the simple-minded villains I know? Has there not been a single wasteful descendant in the Zhuangbai family in 2,000 years? What about other imperial families? What about the pioneers mentioned by Rosanella, or the imperial emperor? Indeed, the truth lies only within the range of canons. If I don't show strength, these nobles probably wouldn't stand a chance. Chapter 103, Count Kroon Carthage Star, Capital Zhuangbai City, Triumph Fortress Manor. The manor stood majestically atop meticulously adorned mountains on the outskirts, overlooking the sprawling urban landscape below and the tranquil lake shimmering with silver-blue hues in the distance. This is the true core of the Zhuangbai family's authority, where even the edges of every polished rock are imbued with undeniable dominance. The Count's study. The room was exceptionally spacious, with an 8-meter-high vaulted ceiling. The walls were lined with heavy solid wood bookshelves reaching up to the ceiling, displaying countless ancient books with leather covers. In the center of the room stood a massive black ebony desk, intricately carved with the family crest. At one corner of the desk was a flag featuring a one-eyed eagle grasping a globe. The air was thick with the scent of old book pages, mingling with the crisp aroma of cigar smoke and fine leather, creating a heavy and solemn atmosphere. Count Cruin appeared to be in the later stages of middle age, 324 years old, with a touch of gray at his temples. His features bore a resemblance to Parker's, but were more rigid and harsh, with deep-set eyes that conveyed a calm authority. He held an unlit ordinary cigar between his fingers, quietly listening to his son's report. Opposite him was Parker's holographic projection. So, you have decided to invest 1 billion star coins in this Dreadnought-class starship engineering project from the Earth Federation? Cruin's voice revealed no emotion, but each word carried the weight of someone accustomed to power. Yes, Father, Parker replied sincerely. Lord Lu Ling can assist us in re-establishing Zhuang Bei's position in the Cassiopeia constellation and even in the extragalactic 63-star region. The returns on this investment will far exceed our expectations, and it is an opportunity we cannot afford to miss. Cruin extended his hand and precisely clipped the end of the cigar, then slowly lit it with an antique lighter on the desk. However, he did not inhale. He merely allowed the smoke to rise, weaving a thin veil in front of him, obscuring Parker's view of his true expression at that moment. Parker, you are the most outstanding among my 5,000 children. Our ancestors designated you as the first heir of this generation, so your authority is second only to mine. Naturally, you have the right to mobilize the family's entire resources. He gently placed the cigar on the edge of a crystal ashtray, his movements calm and unhurried. 1 billion in cash is no small amount, especially at this juncture. Parker sat up straight. Is it from the council then? The fleet of the Imperial tax officer will arrive in a few months. Count Cruin's gaze seemed to penetrate the smoke. The family's primary task at present is to raise sufficient tax funds for the treasury. Using such a large amount of liquid capital now will undoubtedly attract scrutiny from the council. However, I believe you have a countermeasure. Father, for this investment, the family only needs to bear half. The remaining portion will be raised by me personally. By the time of the ceremony in 5 decades, the family's tax reserves will surely be sufficient. Oh, Cruin studied his son for a moment, his eyes revealing a complex mix of emotions, evaluation, consideration, before eventually softening into a faint, almost appreciative expression. I heard you made a lot of money fighting pirates. Father, Blackwater Bay is a cash cow and also a treasure trove. Many elders in the family are involved. I simply collected some protection fees. Pirates cannot be completely eradicated. It seems your educational experience in the Colossi Empire has indeed given you a unique perspective. Cruin's lips curled slightly. Indeed. Understanding when to bet and being willing to place a heavy wager are essential qualities for a family leader. Parker smiled slightly at this. Father, I came across a saying in an ancient text from the Dragon Hua era while reading at the Colossi Empire Library that perfectly fits this situation. Would you like to hear it? Please, go ahead. All in is a form of wisdom. Parker raised his voice. Investing 1 billion star coins, or even more in a talent who can change the future of the family is just the beginning. This statement is quite interesting. Cruin neither refuted nor agreed. His expression behind the smoke was hard to read. A brief silence followed. You are about to officially take over the family. The Count spoke again. For this investment, I will allocate some assistance from my private treasury. As for family funds, you need to find a way to silence the elders. If it fails this first time, I will step in to help you suppress it. After that, it will depend on you. Thank you, Father. Parker knew that 1 billion star coins in cash was by no means a small amount for the Zhuangbi family. It might even provoke a significant backlash. But he had already made his calculations. The atmosphere in the study had just eased when Cruin seemed to recall another matter. His brow furrowing slightly. Parker, there's one more thing. Is the matter regarding the Silverlight inheritance not resolved yet? It seems to be delayed beyond the original plan. The Count finally picked up a cigar and began to smoke. Parker noticed his frown. Father, the inheritance is currently in the hands of a pirate. And that pirate's ship was personally modified by my friend, Lord Lu Ling. Our Zhuangbi family has no vessels that can catch up. It might be delayed, but as long as the 1 billion in funds is in place, the Silverlight inheritance will be easily accessible. Friend? Cruin's tone rose slightly. Parker, is this your well-considered decision? Yes. Father, he is my friend. Ha ha ha. Then why not invite him over to our home as a guest? Let your mother cook. She has been too idle lately. It's set for tomorrow. Regarding the money issue, I will have the butler arrange a portion for you shortly. The matter of the Silverlight inheritance needs to be expedited. Senator Jonas inquired about the progress during his last communication. He said that group of pioneers is very likely to send someone over to investigate. Is it true that the site has been cleaned up? Father, please rest assured, the Silverlight family's inheritance is well under control. I believe that pirate will not speak recklessly. Even if he does, no one will believe him. Clurin looked deeply at his son, a sharp glint flashing briefly. You think? Parker, 136 years ago when you were a child, I taught you that any plan or decision cannot contain uncertain words. This is fatal. Have you forgotten why we call ourselves Carthage? Parker composed himself. Father, your son knows his mistake. You seem a bit overly confident, putting all your hopes on your friend. Parker, your friend is just your friend, and you are a Juangbi. Parker humbly lowered his eyes. Seeing this, Clurin nodded slightly, his tone easing. You have one excellent quality. You are eager to learn and can be humble. I will adhere to your teachings, Father. The air fell silent again. Clurin sank into thought, and after nearly a minute, he finally spoke. The Senator. It is a matter entrusted to us by our most important ally in the Imperial House of Commons. Do not let him down. I understand, Father. Parker bowed. I will never bring shame to you or the family. By the way, how much is the Silverlight family inheritance worth? Approximately 2 billion star coins. Is that so? A hint of doubt flashed in Clurin's eyes. I always feel that Senator Jonas hasn't revealed the whole truth. If it were only 5 billion, he shouldn't be so eager. What does Father mean? Parker, this matter is not that simple. Understood. Father, I will investigate personally. Parker's holographic projection slightly bowed, preparing to terminate the connection. Parker. The voice of Count Cruin echoed again, deeper than before, with a heavy force that penetrated the virtual space. I still advise you. A friend is ultimately a friend. In the study, the cigar smoke seemed thicker, obscuring the Count's profound features, yet his next words were clear and resonant. As you said, he comes from a far-off nation. A federation of planets whose boundaries we cannot imagine. His current predicament here is merely a coincidence in the vast sea of stars. His knowledge, his technology, even his perspective on us are rooted in a civilization far beyond our comprehension. One day, he will return to his homeland, or his compatriots will follow his trail. And when that time comes, he will leave without hesitation. The friendship you rely on, the future you invest in, could vanish in an instant. You, and perhaps our entire family, may not even have the qualifications to step into his world. Cruin's gaze seemed to penetrate the holographic image, looking deep into his son's soul. If you take pride in this and tie the fate of the family to a friendship, hoping to solve all problems easily with the help of a passerby, then the Zhuangbai family will inevitably perish under your hands. We rose through commerce and caution, not by placing our hopes on outsiders. Friendship can forge momentary brilliance, but true strength comes from within, my son. Parker took a deep breath, and the holographic image seemed to ripple slightly. Count Cruin waved his hand, and the smoke flowed accordingly. Go ahead. You have grown up. Every choice you make carries the weight of the family's past and future. No matter what, I will support you. Chapter 104. Halifa meanwhile, aboard the Death Vortex-class battleship, in the Grand Hangar, Bloodshark, Lien, and other surviving pirates were experiencing unprecedented shock. The hangar's dome towered, with a breathtakingly open view. Surrounding them were neatly arranged various types of carrier aircraft, engineering boats, and drone parking spots. In the distance, large mechanical arms were conducting maintenance operations, emitting low rumbling sounds. The lighting system emitted a uniform cold white glow, shining brightly on every inch of the alloy deck. And the air was filled with a faint scent of ozone and metallic ions. This group of battle-scarred pirates stood there, looking particularly small and disheveled. The holographic image of Zawena coalesced not far away. Master of Division. Someone shouted. Hearing this title, Zawena frowned slightly. The codename reminded her of the battle at Blackwater Bay a week ago. At this moment, she was dressed in the advanced uniform of the Sisterhood, standing tall. Welcome aboard. Her voice was cold and clear. You have entered the Death Vortex battleship, and here, you will find refuge. Her gaze swept over the weary and shaken former pirates before her. Asylum is not unconditional. On this ship, survival depends on order and values. My commands are of the highest priority and must be obeyed unconditionally. Any form of rebellion, damage to the ship's structure, or interference with ship operations will be regarded as a top-level threat and will be eliminated. She paused slightly, allowing the cold warning to seep into everyone's consciousness. Your original ranks will be cancelled. From now on, you are apprentice crew members of the Death Vortex, and your duties, permissions, and activity areas will be strictly limited. Whether you can gain more privileges depends on your contributions and obedience. At this moment, Aura flew over, emitting soft, blue scanning beams that enveloped everyone. Initiating permission granting procedure. Permission level, level 12. Apprentice crew member, temporary identification code assigned. Basic internal navigation map, downloaded to your personal terminals. Daily activity area restriction. Sections E7 to E12, including lower apprentice crew dormitory. Designated dining area and entertainment facilities. Unauthorized entry into other sections, including but not limited to the hangar, bridge, engine room, weapons control center, and laboratories, is strictly prohibited. Communication permissions. limited to designated Level 12 public channels and your Team S subchannels. Access to other channels, ship-wide broadcasts, and special encrypted channels is forbidden. Weapon permissions, none. All personal weapons must be immediately surrendered to the armory in Section E13 for registration and storage. During duty, appropriate equipment will be allocated as needed. Please truthfully register your genetic level, activation sequence, historical positions, and specialized abilities on your personal terminal. Bloodshark took a deep breath and stepped forward first. Understood. Commander Savina, we will obey the arrangements. The pirates behind him also lowered their heads. Aura will guide you to the living area. Dismissed. The holographic image disappeared. Bloodshark turned around, glanced at the silent Lien, then faced his crew of seasoned pirates who had experienced life and death and were still in shock. He smirked. Did you all hear that? We are now people with a ship, and it's a damn battleship. Put away those old pirate habits. Anyone who can't control themselves. Don't blame me for turning against you. The crowd stirred, and a glimmer of light reignited in their tired eyes. It was a complex mix of awe, hope, and survival instinct. Under Aura's guidance, they began to drag their weary steps toward the deep deck passage leading to the crew quarters, integrating into the cold and orderly pulse of the massive warship. In the passage, Lien took one last look at the endlessly vast hangar deck. Why have a battleship if they are still in the red? Meanwhile, at the end of the celestial path on Carthage Star, in a luxurious hover car, Lu Ling instinctively touched his nose, distracted by the sudden itch he had just felt. Could it be that Savina was thinking of him? Sigh, still too poor. I need to make money quickly. Outside the window, the magnificent silhouette of the planet loomed large, filling the entire view as if a vast, living canvas was slowly unfurling, immersing all senses within it. Music played inside the vehicle, its melody perfectly matching the breathtaking scenery. The commentary was professional and clear, but the attention of the passenger was completely captivated by the vibrant planet outside. They were about to leave the celestial path. Her voice became the background to this visual feast. The vehicle began to gently decelerate, descending through the flowing, deep blue energy barrier, officially entering the planet's atmosphere. A slight vibration and a low hum of wind filled the air as the vehicle glided along an invisible descent towards the southeastern coastline. Emerging from the clouds, the lush green land stretched infinitely below, exuding a vitality that had been meticulously nurtured to its peak. The vast blue ocean was breathtaking, transitioning from the light blue of the shallows to the deep, alluring cobalt of the distant sea. The surface was calm, devoid of the wild waves and chaotic currents typical of nature. Sunlight scattered, refracting into large, ever-changing, and stunningly beautiful ripples. The vehicle continued to lower its altitude, and the texture of the air seemed to seep in through the glass. The view below became increasingly clear, with streamlined buildings interspersed among lakes and forests, designed to emphasize coexistence with the environment. Sky gardens and floating platforms appeared like greenery embedded within the city's three-dimensional space, as dense streams of traffic quietly wove through invisible pathways, creating a serene urban tapestry filled with a sense of the future. This planet was beautiful, rich, pure, and teeming with life, every inch of land showcasing absolute control and unparalleled transformation. It was truly a perfect work of art, the passenger quietly observed, a long-lost sense of awe washing over his nerves. This was not only a marvel at the magnificent scenery, but also a profound appreciation for the power of a civilization to transform nature and reshape the world. Crossing over the ocean, they entered the land, then gracefully turned, smoothly descending along the contour lines of the lakeside hills. Ahead, the outline of a vast city gradually became clear amidst the reflections of the lake and mountains. We are entering the airspace of the city, my lord, came the timely voice. The second largest urban area on the planet, a global hub of economy, culture, and transportation, has been situated by Lake Halifa for over 15 standard centuries. The passenger gazed out the window, noting the stark contrast between the city and the orderly agricultural and industrial zones they had just passed. It lacked the sharp, militarized sense of order found in other cities, instead resembling a multifaceted gem nestled between the mountains and waters. The streamlined silver buildings naturally grew along the winding lakeshore, with towering spires and gently sloping domes arranged harmoniously, while numerous transparent aerial walkways and floating gardens resembled delicate neural networks, organically connecting the entire city. Air traffic was noticeably denser, with various vehicles flowing orderly along the invisible light paths, resembling migrating schools of glowing fish. Halifa City is renowned for its commerce, finance, higher education institutions, and cutting-edge biotechnology research. Zindalin continued to introduce, her gaze drifting outside the window. Over 20% of the wealth of the Zhuangbi family circulates here, and the building height restrictions are relatively relaxed, encouraging innovation and aesthetic expression, resulting in a more diverse and vibrant skyline. The flying vehicle swept past a vast floating water curtain square, where countless droplets coalesced in the air into dynamic holographic artworks, only to quietly disperse, eliciting waves of astonishment from the crowd below. The city is divided into an upper and lower ring. The upper ring mainly comprises commercial, cultural, and residential areas. The lower ring delves into the lakeshore mountains, serving as a major transportation hub, industrial production, and storage area. She pointed to a distant cluster of buildings constructed on the mountainside, topped with a gigantic transparent dome. That is the Halifa Zenith Conference Center, where the most important Juangbi trade summits are often held. The flying vehicle began to descend, merging into a gentle waterway close to the lakeshore, further slowing its speed. Lu Ling opened the car window. A breeze from the lake swept in, carrying the natural freshness of moisture. He greedily inhaled. It was a mixture of plant aromas, abundant water vapor, and the subtly sweet scent of thoroughly purified oxygen. It was starkly different from the metallic tang of the recycled air he had grown accustomed to on the ship. This was a desire etched in his genes, an instinctive yearning for land and nature after drifting too long in cold steel. This, indeed, is the land. Lu Ling gazed out the window. The pedestrians were dressed in noticeably more fashionable and colorful attire, and artistic installations were visible in public spaces. A vibrant, affluent energy permeated the air, harmoniously blending with the picturesque lakeside city. The flying vehicle finally gracefully turned, gliding toward a gently rising hill by the lakeside. An ancient castle complex, distinctly embodying the Parthian classical revival style, dominated the end of the peninsula, with dark stone walls coexisting harmoniously with the high-tech, transparent dome. This was clearly a high-security area, with no other flying vehicles in sight. Halifa Lakeside Castle, your accommodation during this trip, Zindelin said. It was established at the end of the Golden Age and is now one of the venues for the Juangbi family to host their highest-ranking guests. The flying vehicle slowly landed on the private helipad atop the castle's main tower. As the cabin door opened, the moist and fresh lake breeze rushed in, and the distant Halifa Lake shimmered with golden waves under the setting sun. The moment he stood on the land, Lu Ling took a deep breath. It had been too long. He had drifted in space for too long. He looked towards the transparent dome of the city. This city, along with everything it represents, silently conveyed the other side of the Juangbi family's strength, a more refined, wealthier, and more indulgent kind of power. Chapter 105. Nobility. As soon as Lu Ling stepped out of the flying vehicle, Zindelin was already standing aside, performing a flawless bow. Welcome to Lakeside Castle. Your Excellency Lu Ling. This will serve as your residence during your time in Carthage. From now on, I will temporarily take on the role of your castle steward, coordinating all matters to ensure your comfort and convenience here. Lu Ling nodded slightly and gently exhaled the moist air. Please follow me, Cinderlin said, stepping aside to lead the way. Entering the castle, they passed through a wide corridor adorned with ancient tapestries and artistic paintings. A faint scent reminiscent of ancient trees mixed with cold cedar filled the air, while the temperature and humidity were maintained at an extremely comfortable level. A heavy wooden door, intricately carved with elaborate patterns, silently slid open, revealing an exceptionally spacious circular main hall. The dome of the hall was transparent, and the golden glow of the setting sun poured in, illuminating the entire space with warmth. As Lu Ling stepped into the hall, 2 rows of guards in matching silver-gray uniforms, exuding a calm and formidable presence, bowed in unison, their movements perfectly synchronized and silent. Their sharp, reserved gazes clearly indicated that they were exceptional individuals. Immediately after, another group quietly appeared in the light of the hall's center. 88 maids, dressed in elegantly styled, luxurious pearl-gray custom gowns. They each possessed their own charm, yet exhibited an astonishing synchronicity. Every subtle movement, every breath, and even the arc of their eyelashes fell into perfect harmony. Beneath their beauty lay a deeply ingrained instinct for obedience and service, cultivated with care, as they stood quietly. Are they all artificial beings? Lu Ling observed silently. They all gracefully bowed to Lu Ling in unison. Cinderlin's steady voice sounded beside her. By the order of young Master Parker, 48 members of the security team from the Juangbin Internal Affairs Bureau will be responsible for your safety during your stay here. Her gaze swept over the still-standing line of maids. Additionally, the 88 maids from the Internal Affairs Bureau will attend to your daily needs and requirements during this period. They are well-versed in the etiquette and service skills of 17 major star regions and can meet all your needs. She slightly turned to face Lu Ling, presenting a ring that emitted a soft blue glow. This is your temporary access key during your time in Carthage, with your biometric information already linked. You can issue commands directly, or I can convey and execute them on your behalf. Lu Ling took the ring, feeling a cool, peculiar touch reminiscent of some biological alloy on his fingertips. He glanced again at the silent and vast serving team before him, then at the opulent and grand hall that seemed almost unreal under the setting sun. finally looking through the transparent dome at the seemingly boundless private lakeshore and forest bathed in golden light outside. Parker's handiwork was lavish and direct, thrusting a lifestyle that surpassed his previous understanding right before him. Cinderlyn waited quietly, her gray-white eyes showing no signs of emotion, as if to say that this arrangement was merely the most ordinary hospitality of the Juingbin family. The 88 maids maintained their welcoming posture, as if they could stand that way forever. Huh, Lu Ling chuckled. Is this the test for the personnel? What kind of personnel can't withstand such a test? He slid the cold authority ring onto his finger, perfectly fitting. I'm hungry, lead the way. As you wish, my lord. At this moment, outside the starport of Carthage, on the top observation deck, Parker stood before the enormous curved viewport, his gaze fixed on the vast and profound universe outside. Distant stars sparkled like frozen diamonds. Cold and far away, Commander Claude of the Triumph Fleet stood a half step behind him, maintaining a respectful distance. Has the Dragon Shield Fleet intercepted them? Parker's voice was steady, devoid of emotion. Claude slightly bowed. Young master, they have already set up a net in the exclusive route they applied for. They must have forcibly exited the jump by now. Handle it cleanly. On the Dragon Shield side, have the Foreign Ministry send someone to calm them down. Tell them this was an accident. Yes. Increase the priority of intelligence infiltration in Blackwater Bay, and give Rachel some incentives if necessary. Warn him, within 3 days. I must see Feng Ling performing on stage. Understood. Arrived. Claude suddenly raised his head. In the distance, the deep space beyond the starport erupted with a flash of jump light. A massive ship emerged from it, elongated in shape, its armor dark as eternal night. With enormous solar wings on either side of its bow like the double-edged scythe of death, slicing through the void toward the starport. It's that mysterious ghost battleship. Claude's voice tensed instantly, instinctively wanting to sound the alarm, but Parker raised his hand to stop him. No need to make a fuss. Parker clasped his hands behind his back, his knuckles tightening slightly. This was a super starship with a powerful shield capable of withstanding 160,000 cruise missiles. Its mere existence could easily overturn all the naval power accumulated by Juangbi over the past 2,000 years. The ghost battleship began to decelerate when it was several kilometers from the starport, eventually stopping just a few meters away in the void. Clear my number 1 docking bay. Let the guest ship dock, and remember, do not let any images, information, or rumors leak. Young master, this is too risky. What if it? Claude's voice was dry, tinged with an unrecognized tremor. He had seen countless ships in his battles, yet none had instilled in him a primal fear like this giant vessel. All fear stemmed from insufficient firepower. Claude, Parker interrupted him, his voice growing colder. If something can withstand your fleet's full salvo with hostility, we would already be a pile of floating space debris by now. Moreover, Lord Lying has already given prior notice. He paused, turning his head, his peripheral vision catching the pale-faced commander. Do as I say. Yes. Parker suddenly remembered something. By the way, record the loss of those 160,000 missiles back to the Navy's account. Huh. Young master, that money will be turned in once it comes back. The silent naval port was awakened, beginning to operate efficiently and silently. The designated route was instantly cleared, defensive weapon platforms quietly concealed, and heavy composite armor partition walls fell within the port, completely isolating the naval area 1. The propulsion engines of the giant ship reignited, and it slowly moved in. Its size was so astonishing that when it fully entered the docking channel designed for battleships, the guiding light strips on both sides almost grazed its dark armor plating, casting shadows that swallowed all light, making the channel seem to sink into midnight. Finally, it docked securely at berth number 1, accompanied by a low, heavy metallic grinding sound and the hissing of the hydraulic system releasing pressure as the docking ring of the giant ship locked firmly with the berth's securing devices. The gate with a diameter of 1 kilometer began to descend, and then the entire dry dock started to rotate and turn around. The lights in the channel lit up sequentially, the cold white glow barely dispelling some of the darkness, illuminating the massive, complex armored surface of the battleship's belly, which was filled with an otherworldly sense of aesthetics. Standing beneath it, humans felt as small as ants gazing up at the sky. Parker adjusted the collar of his dark blue suit and restored his usual calm smile. Come with me to take a look. Chapter 106. Passengers. Lu Ling lay on the terrace bench of the lakeside castle, contentedly burping. The moonlight of Carthage bathed the terrace, casting a silvery glow over everything. According to Sindarin, the locals referred to the moon as Selene 34. He summoned the system interface, and a screen unfolded before him. Skills, buildings, building equipment, ships, trade goods, passengers. Open passengers. If his guess was correct, this function should allow for direct extraction on the planet's surface. Huh. Kidnapped joint mining researchers. 0 for sale. Independent laborers. 10 units. Unit price 8,000 star coins. Fido. 0 for sale. Marines. 2,000 units. Unit price 200. 000 star coins, elite laborers. 0 for sale, cam of soldiers. 0 for sale, gatekeepers. 1,000 units. Unit price 100, 000 star coins, laborers. 72 units, unit price 2, 500. 000 star coins, hound. 1 unit, unit price 800 star coins, female exotic dancer. 33 units, unit price 500, 000 star coins, male exotic dancer. 0 for sale, refugees. 999. 999 units, unit price 3,000 star coins, freedom fighters. 0 for sale. Many items are out of stock. Laborers are more expensive than Marines. What kind of logic is that? Is there something shady going on? Lu Ling frowned slightly. Just then, under the night sky, a hover car glided smoothly in and slowly landed on the helipad at the top of the castle. The hatch slid open, and a familiar figure stepped into the moonlight. Lu Ling smiled at the sight. It was Zavina. She was still wearing her sister's set of high-end combat gear, looking valiant and heroic. Captain. Her voice was as cool as ever, but upon closer listening, one could detect a hint of subtle relaxation. Thank you for your hard work. Everything went smoothly? Lu Ling asked, scanning her to confirm that she had no injuries. Very smoothly, Zavina nodded. The old troops of the Red Soldiers have been handed over to Aura for reorganization, and all 86 million star coins have been securely stored. Lu Ling took a deep breath. Indeed, robbing and doing business with landlords was the fastest way to get rich. Just in time, let's get down to business, Lu Ling said, signaling Shi Weina to follow. Shi Weina's ears flushed with a hint of crimson. Business? That was exactly what she wanted. But the captain hadn't put on his clothes yet. Her voice lowered a bit. Lu Ling stumbled. What was she thinking? Was that really business? Come here. The castle. The dungeon. If you ask why noble castles have dungeons, the answer is simple. You don't understand nobility. The dungeon was not dark. On the contrary, it was exceptionally bright. The walls and ceiling were made of sealed high-strength alloy, the cold white lights illuminating the space, and the air carried a mix of metallic and disinfectant scents. So clean that there wasn't a speck of dust. It felt more like a high-standard, closed biological laboratory or confinement chamber than a traditional damp and eerie prison. He instructed Cinderlin not to let anyone disturb them. Standing in the center of the spacious dungeon, Lu Ling summoned the system interface and brought up the passenger list again, his gaze locking onto the hound, priced at only 800 star coins. At that moment, Shi Weina had already donned the level 5 nano armor that Andre had given her. The blazing battle axe modules still embedded in her hands. Lu Ling thought to himself that he needed to find Parker to customize a set of level 5 weapon modules. Hound. The hound is a native creature of planet Hilkus 5. Since the arrival of the Emma people over 1,000 years ago, they have begun to domesticate this animal. Because using labor dogs as guard beasts proved effective, they were exported from planet Hilkus 5 to most Emma agricultural planets, and even some industrial and mining planets. Although hounds are inherently savage and can easily kill, they have recently become favored pets among some daring Emma people. If properly trained, hounds can be very loyal to their owners. Price, 800 star coins. Purchase, payment successful. The item has been stored in the hangar. Retrieve. Please select a retrieval location. Current position. Confirm retrieval. Loyalty chip acquired. Without hesitation, Lu Ling clicked confirm. In the center of the dungeon, the air seemed to ripple. The next second, a massive, deep brown figure suddenly appeared, crashing heavily onto the cold alloy floor. Bang! The heavy landing sound was accompanied by the harsh noise of metal being scraped by claws. It was the hound. It crouched low, its massive body covered in thick scales slightly recoiling, a threatening low growl emanating from its throat. Its pitch-black eyes, like a lightless deep pool, instantly locked onto the two living beings in the dungeon, filled with primal ferocity and a desire to kill. Shi Weina's expression sharpened, and she immediately positioned herself in front of Lu Ling, her hand resting on her weapon. Lu Ling activated the loyalty chip. The hound's fierce head suddenly halted, as if a switch had been forcibly triggered within its dark pupils. Its brutal growl abruptly ceased, and its massive body slackened as if the power had been cut off. It lowered its head, the primal wildness completely suppressed by the chip, absolute obedience becoming the highest priority. The transformation happened in an instant. Come here, Lu Ling said. The hunting dog immediately approached obediently, and Lu Ling patted its rough head, examining it closely. The scales were thick and heavy, and its height was over 2 meters. Back. The hunting dog stepped back immediately. Sit. Spin. Shake hands. Bark like a dog. With a series of commands. The oppressive aura brought by the creature in the dungeon instantly dissipated. Zawina blinked, watching the captain play with delight. Lu Ling tried to retract the command. Indeed. The system showed no response. 800 star coins, quite a bargain. Lu Ling looked at the hunting dog, which stood like a statue in the corner, its pitch-black eyes silently observing him. In the future, he would take it for walks whenever he had time. He pulled up the system interface again and focused on another entry. Marine Corps soldier. Inventory 2,000 units. Unit price 200,000 star coins. Purchase quantity 1 unit. Confirm payment 200,000 star coins. Payment successful. This item has been stored in the hangar. Extract. Please select extraction location. Current location. Confirm extraction. Neural synchronization protocol loading. Loyalty branding injection complete. In the center of the dungeon, the air seemed to be compressed and congealed by some heavy, solemn presence. There were no light and shadow effects. No spatial fluctuations. In the next moment, a figure stood there. He was clad in a set of dark golden power armor, perfectly combining elegance and lethality. The armor's lines were graceful yet powerful, with intricate engravings of the Empire's emblem on the shoulder plates, flowing with a muted sheen under the cold white light. The faceplate was made of polished black crystal, completely obscuring his features, only reflecting the cold scenery of the dungeon and Lu Ling in front of him. He held a uniquely shaped, elongated phase pulse rifle, the stock resting against his leg. On the other side of his waist hung a ceremonial dagger adorned with imperial religious symbols. For Her Majesty the Queen. Zywina instantly focused, never expecting the captain to summon a living person. Moreover, the sense of danger emanating from this dark golden armor far surpassed that of the previous hunting dog. Royal Navy Guard of the Empire, Disaster Level Marine Corps, 7th Tactical Group, Dark Crow, responding to the supreme will of Her Majesty the Queen. Commander, your will is the Empire's blade. Seeing this scene, Lu Ling couldn't help but be moved. The Empire, a theocratic society ruled by the church and nobility, was an ancient nation with a long history. Therefore, the people of the Empire bore a heavy sense of historical mission, respecting their ancestors and reminiscing about glorious pasts. They never acted hastily. Instead, they always looked ahead, planning for the long term. Clearly, the Dark Crow was a devout fanatic, and precisely, the most dangerous one. Could this be bought for 200,000? Or was it a matter of luck? Long live the Queen. Chapter 107. A billion after the Dark Raven took over the defenses of the lakeside fortress, the entire castle seemed to be infused with an ancient and majestic order. This warrior from the Emma Royal Navy Guard intricately engraved the discipline of a millennium-old empire and a religious fervor into every corner. For the first time, Lu Ling felt what it meant to be absolutely reliable. The next day, Lu Ling naturally woke up from his sleep. Sunlight poured into the bedroom through the pristine floor-to-ceiling windows, and outside, the surface of the Halifa Lake shimmered. He had rarely enjoyed a complete and restful sleep, without alarms, without battles, only the absolute tranquility provided by the lakeside fortress. Time seemed to stretch, yet also felt fleeting, like the blink of an eye. The last time he had slept so soundly was perhaps 2 days ago, when he was unconscious. He rubbed his forehead and chuckled self-deprecatingly. In days adrift in space and battling at the edge of danger, deep sleep was a luxury. Hey, Savina, isn't it time for breakfast yet? After a simple wash-up, Sindarin appeared promptly outside the door, softly reporting, Your Excellency, breakfast is ready. Young Master Parker's flying car has arrived at the helipad downstairs, inviting you to join him for breakfast. Please ask him to come to the East Terrace. Lu Ling nodded. Moments later, on the East Terrace of the castle, the sunlight was clear and bright, with a gentle breeze from the lake. Lu Ling and Savina leisurely enjoyed the characteristic breakfast of Carthage, while Parker sat across from him, a steaming cup of rich coffee in front of him. He had changed into a well-tailored dark outfit today, his demeanor calm and his manners as always elegant and appropriate, with a hint of warmth in his golden eyes. Did you enjoy the night by Halifa Lake? Parker took a sip of coffee, his tone relaxed, as if it were just an ordinary chat between friends. Yes, it was tranquil and safe. I really like it here, Lu Ling nodded, expressing his gratitude for the warm hospitality. I'm glad you like it, Parker smiled gently. Carthage may not compare to Earth, but it has its own charm of tranquility and depth. I hope this place can help you temporarily escape the turmoil of the Starry Sea. The few of them casually chatted about the customs, climate, and scenery of Carthage, the atmosphere light and harmonious. Parker did not rush to the main topic, displaying great patience and grace. Just then, the alloy door leading from the terrace to the interior of the castle slid open. A large hunting dog, covered in thick, dark brown scales, walked out with a steady gait. Its pitch-black eyes scanned the terrace, finally resting on Lu Ling, before quietly lying down on the ground beside his seat, its spiky scales glistening coldly in the morning light. Parker paused slightly with his coffee cup, a hint of surprise flashing in his golden eyes. Delivered this morning? He quickly regained his composure, but his gaze held a deeper interest. What is this? I've never seen a creature like this before. Its form doesn't seem to belong to Carthage or even the Corsi Star region. Lu Ling casually patted the hunting dog's rough-scaled head, which let out a low but gentle whine from its throat. It's an indigenous creature from the planet Hercus, known locally as a hunting dog. Lu Ling's tone was calm. as if introducing an ordinary collectible. They had a fierce temperament, but with proper guidance, they could be quite reliable for guarding a home. It was also by chance that he managed to acquire such a creature. Parker quietly repeated the unfamiliar name. He had never heard of it, but it seemed to belong to a species from a distant core star region. In the universe, humanity is not alone. The ability to tame such wild creatures so obediently was truly impressive. Parker finally smiled, his tone filled with genuine admiration, yet he did not pursue further details. Displaying a good sense of discretion, he elegantly set down his coffee cup, shifting his gaze from the docile hunting dog back to Lu Ling, and spoke naturally. Regarding the optimization of the jump guidance efficiency for the family fleet that was mentioned earlier, I wonder if it's convenient for you today, Lord Lu Ling? The Justice is currently undergoing routine maintenance, and the core engine compartment and main guidance matrix repair channels have been opened, with permissions prepared for you. He paused and added in a calm tone. I remember you were quite interested in the engine output during your last visit aboard the Justice. I think this might be a good opportunity to gain a deeper understanding of its internal structure. Of course, if you have other arrangements, we can certainly choose another time. His invitation was casual yet respectful, leaving the choice entirely to Lu Ling convenient. Lu Ling replied, setting down his utensils and wiping his mouth with a napkin. He understood Parker's implication. He was ready. Parker's smile widened, clearly pleased. It is an honor for the Zhuangbi Navy to have an expert like you here to provide guidance. So, shall we set off after breakfast? Yes, Lu Ling responded succinctly. Zawina quietly ate, remaining mostly silent, but her attention never fully relaxed, keenly capturing the nuances in Parker's words, the subtle changes in his expression, and any disturbances in the surrounding environment. Breakfast continued in a relaxed atmosphere. Parker did not delve into technical details again, instead casually discussing recent happenings at the starport, sharing some interesting anecdotes, displaying great patience and sophistication. True to his noble status, he kept the conversation lively, perfectly enhancing the atmosphere each time. After the meal, the group took Parker's private flyer back to the starport. In Dock 2, the Justice was moored. They all entered the elevator. Parker, why is the Justice docked here? I saw it at Dock 1 when I arrived, which is the only enclosed area. Lord Lu Ling, your warship is too conspicuous. It's not suitable to be in plain sight at the moment. Parker lowered his voice a bit. The Empire has an intelligence agency in Zhuangbi. Lu Ling understood. Thank you. No need to thank friends. Lu Ling was somewhat surprised. Parker's words felt a bit distant, yet his gaze was sincere. Just then, Lu Ling's communicator vibrated gently. It was a secure message from Aura, inquiring about the permissions settings for the Dark Crow. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ling decided to maintain its original Marine Corps function, with a crew level of 10, responsible for training the Blood Sharks and others. At the same time, a message was sent to Greenleaf, asking her to prepare. He wanted to know the genetic rating of Eve's Marine Corps within the Empire. Stepping back into the engine room of the Justice, the deep hum of energy was clearer than last time. The top engineers and technical supervisors of Zhuangbi had been waiting here, their curious and scrutinizing gazes towards Lu Ling filled with a hint of unmasked pride typical of technical elites. Parker gestured for him to proceed. Your Excellency Lu Ling, please feel free. All data interfaces and testing ports here have been opened to you with the highest permissions. Lu Ling nodded slightly and walked towards the massive jump engine core. Zavina silently followed half a step behind him, her steel blue eyes calmly scanning the surroundings and everyone present. He did not immediately connect to the data interfaces, but instead took a slow stroll, his gaze sweeping over the intricate superconducting energy conduits, the heavy water magnetic fluid cooling circuits, and the main energy injector under layers of protection. Several senior engineers from Zhuangbi instinctively straightened their backs, ready to face any potential technical inquiries or challenges. After a moment, Lu Ling stopped and spoke in a flat tone. The Empire employs a classic multi-segment design. Its advantages include extremely solid structure, high energy load capacity, and it is a model of durability. Lu Ling's fingers pointed to several key nodes. The inner wall coating of the energy conduit is made of Kevlar Type 7 superconducting ceramic, and the cooling circuit has a design efficiency margin of 15, which is conservative but ensures stability under extreme conditions. The pre-combustion chamber structure of the main energy injector has been slightly adjusted, likely to adapt to the characteristics of the high-purity deuterium-tritium fuel in the Carthage galaxy, optimizing combustion efficiency, but at the cost of about 3 fluctuation at peak output. An old engineer was taken aback, inadvertently exclaiming, "How do you know? This adjustment took us 5 years." Lu Ling did not look at him and continued. The overall design philosophy sacrifices some extreme performance and jump guidance speed in exchange for absolute reliability and an ultra-long service life. For a navy that requires frequent long-term deployment and maintenance of large fleets, this is a wise choice. His comments were incisive, highlighting the strengths while unreservedly pointing out its backward and conservative nature. This was not derogatory, but an objective judgment based on more advanced understanding. Parker's eyes flashed with admiration, and his smile became more genuine. Your Excellency, your insight is piercing and hits the nail on the head. This is precisely the core standard configuration of the main battleships provided to us by the Count Lords, where reliability and maintainability are always the top priorities. Lu Ling ceased his commentary, activated his wristband to connect to the data interface, and ran the diagnostic program of Aura. The foundation was solid, with no hidden flaws. The mechanical skills of the Zhuanbei family were indeed commendable, more refined and exquisite than Wangxi. Justice, what is the jump preparation time? Standard Imperial Martyr-class battleship, for 100 seconds. The navigator immediately replied. This figure was reported plainly, causing all the engineers present to instinctively nod slightly. These are performance indicators they are familiar with and take for granted. Standard values under the Imperial technological framework, and also bottlenecks they have been trying to optimize for years with little success. It's simple and can be directly modified. Upon hearing this, Parker's spirit lifted and his golden pupils brightened. Lu Ling turned to Shivina, instructing her to retrieve the container from the 6th reserve hold on the ship. Understood, Captain, Shivina responded without any hesitation, immediately accepting the order. She didn't even ask which 6th reserve hold or which container, as if she already knew. After a brief waiting period, the atmosphere felt slightly tense. Parker and the engineers stood patiently, with some glancing occasionally towards the entrance. About 10 minutes later, a steady and low hum of the hovering engines echoed from outside the heavy airtight door of the engine room, approaching gradually. The airtight door slid open, and 2 dark, gray hovering transport platforms quietly entered, their chassis emanating a blue anti-gravity aura. Each platform carried 3 matte black rectangular containers, each about 3 meters long. What truly caught everyone's attention was the cargo hovering on the transport platforms. Captain, the 6th unit inertial stabilizers have arrived. Shivina's voice was cool and steady. In this situation, her performance was impeccable. Thank you for your hard work, Lu Ling nodded, his gaze sweeping over the 6 massive containers to confirm everything was in order. The entire engine room fell silent in an instant. Lu Ling looked at Parker and then at the others, remaining silent. Parker understood immediately, displaying an absolutely confident smile. Here, lay the foundation of Zhuangbai, meaning it was absolutely trustworthy. All right. Lu Ling stepped forward and patted the container. It takes 400 seconds to install one set of this. I can stabilize it to 60 seconds. 60 seconds. Silence. All the engineers from Zhuangbai, including the elderly mechanic with graying hair and exceptional skills, stood frozen in place. Eyes wide open, mouths agape, but unable to make a sound. The navigator looked at Parker, seemingly wanting to ask if they had been deceived, but ultimately didn't dare to voice it. The mechanics' faces were filled with extreme shock and disbelief, as well as an almost absurd horror. You're reducing 400 seconds to 60 seconds. This isn't just a percentage increase. It's a leap across orders of magnitude, nearly overturning the laws of physics. This has completely exceeded their understanding of the transition engine technology and even touched upon the core physical rules strictly blocked by the Empire. Even Parker's confident smile froze in an instant. Though he had mentally prepared himself, knowing that Lu Ling's technology would exceed expectations. This exaggerated number still struck him like lightning, leaving his mind momentarily blank. Is this the power of sovereignty in the Core Star region? What does 60 seconds mean? It signifies a revolutionary change in the strategic maneuverability of the Zhuangbai fleet. It means that in any future conflict or game, they will hold an unprecedented advantage and initiative. This is no longer a matter of technological optimization. It is a technological revolution. It represents a new world, a new route. Amidst a silence broken only by countless astonished gazes, Lu Ling's expression remained unchanged, as if he had merely stated an everyday fact. Facing Parker's stunned, almost unfocused gaze, he calmly presented his final offer. One set, 1 billion. Chapter 108. A new future. Is 1 billion star coins considered expensive? If Parker were to answer, the response would undoubtedly be negative. On the contrary, this card is quite cheap, even trivial. 1 billion is merely 1/10 of the annual output value of the Zhuangbai Autonomous Region. In that 1/10 of time, and with 1/10 of the effort, can Zhuangbai's laboratory replicate this leap in technology that defies the laws of physics? The answer is no. It's akin to selling a fully developed spacecraft to the ancestors of humanity in the era of exploration, merely in exchange for a chemical rocket. Is that 1 billion too much? Yes, it is a significant amount, especially for Parker personally. As a young heir who has yet to formally inherit the family fortune, he has exhausted all his permissions and even sought covert support from his father to barely gather half of it. Even with the substantial resources of the entire Zhuangbai family, it might only be enough to purchase 1 set in a year, and perhaps 2 in a bountiful year. But that is not important. Parker can afford to wait. His lifespan is long. As a rare B gene individual, he will only reach middle age at 300 years and show signs of aging at 500. He has both confidence and patience, firmly believing that under his leadership, the Zhuangbai family will reach unprecedented heights. In the hover car returning to the Death Vortex, there were only Lu Ling and Zavina. "Captain, are you really selling this to them?" "Why not?" Lu Ling replied. What he sold to Parker was a large inertial stabilizer, which costs only 1 million in the market. 6 of them cost merely 6 million, yet he sold them for 1 billion. The profit margin was almost as good as robbing a bank, though, of course, Lu Ling had never robbed one and was currently unfamiliar with that aspect. Is 1 billion per set expensive? Yes, but not extortionate. This is a monopolistic technology that transcends the times and is the key to redefining battlefield rules. Furthermore, this is a business. If the initial offer is too low, the prestige won't be elevated, making future business dealings difficult. As for whether the Zhuangbai family can afford it, that is not Lu Ling's concern. He is not foolish. The nobility in this world has a long history, all pretending to be discreet and unassuming. Just think of the Silverlight family. Even after a failed rebellion, they managed to escape with a cash inheritance of 5.2 billion. What was their situation before the rebellion? However, they will definitely attempt to crack the technology and conduct research. Zavina expressed her concerns, noting that the technological foundation of the Zhuangbai family should not be underestimated. "I've thought of that long ago. There's no need to worry," Lu Ling replied with a meaningful smile. Within the system's assets, all sold equipment's real-time status and remaining lifespan can be clearly displayed, along with remote destruction permissions. Therefore, as long as it is destroyed, its lifespan will be compromised. This is the true confidence that allows him to make generous deals with the local nobility. However, he believes that with Parker's wisdom, he wouldn't make such a short-sighted move. Seeing Lu Ling so certain, Zavina no longer pressed for details, quietly keeping this caution in mind. The two continued on their way, and 10 minutes later, they returned to the core hangar of the Death Spiral. Here, 86 million star coins were neatly stacked, shimmering with a mesmerizing metallic sheen. Absorbing. With a thought, Lu Ling accessed the system interface. 86 million, wallet balance. 100,943,212. Looking at the balance that had finally surpassed the 100 million mark, Lu Ling felt elated. The speed of generating money was simply faster than a printing press. Ding ding. The communication bracelet chimed. It was Parker. "Your Excellency." His voice was filled with uncontainable excitement. "The preliminary theoretical tests are complete, and the results are perfect. It's hard to believe. The jump guidance time has stabilized at 598 seconds. The mechanics are currently installing it." He took a deep breath, his tone becoming exceptionally sincere. "The 1 billion price you offered is absolutely fair. To be frank, it seems too cheap to me." Then, he shifted his tone slightly apologetically, explaining, "But you also know that 1 billion in cash is not a small amount. Even for the Zhuangbai family, mobilizing such a large amount of liquid funds at once takes some time to arrange. To show our utmost sincerity and unwavering determination, I've utilized all the authority I can muster to secure 500 million star coins in cash in advance. The transport ship carrying this cash is currently outside your warship. As soon as you give the green light, it can unload immediately." Next, he made the most important commitment, his tone firm and resolute. "I guarantee, in the name of the first heir of the Zhuangbai family, that the remaining 500 million will be delivered to you by this time tomorrow without a single cent missing." Lu Ling could even imagine Parker's eyes shining brightly on the other end of the communication. Indeed, it was all about making money through transactions. "Pleasure doing business, Mr. Parker." A smile appeared on Lu Ling's face as he casually mentioned, "Since we are long-term partners, I can offer you a 20% discount for orders over 5 sets. There was a noticeable pause on the other end, followed by Parker's even more excited and delighted voice, tinged with disbelief. "And 20% discount? Your Excellency. It's a deal. The Zhuangbai family will surely become your most steadfast partner." With that, the communication ended. When Lu Ling and Zavina returned to the hangar deck, even though they were mentally prepared, they were still slightly shocked by the scene before them. A signature heavy-armed transport ship from the Zhuangbai family, with its strong lines, was beginning to unload. The operator, Aura, was using a towing beam to transfer one metal container after another onto the deck, each container resembling a small shipping container. Emblazoned with the Zhuangbai family's eagle emblem and prominent currency symbols, along with denomination codes and anti-counterfeiting stripes. 50 containers. A total of 50. Each container represented 10 million star coins in cash. They stood silently, forming a cold yet incredibly alluring metallic mountain. The heavy deck hatches slowly closed. "Ola, scan and count." A blue scanning beam extended, gliding over each container as if it were alive, reading the embedded chip information and physical characteristics. "Scan complete. Total value confirmed. 500,000,000 star coins. No anomalies. Looking at this scene resembling a mountain of gold and silver, Lu Ling softly said to Zavina, "See, this is technological monopoly. The parts are secondary. What we sell to Parker is a brand new future." Zavina gazed at the sight before her and then at the composed man beside her. A glimmer of understanding flashing in her eyes. Absorb. Instantly, the recently stored mountain of 500 million star coins seemed to vanish into thin air, as if drawn by an invisible force. 500,000,000 star coins. Wallet balance. 600, 943, 212 star coins. The balance instantly surpassed 600 million. Lu Ling was in great spirits, already looking forward to the arrival of another 500 million star coins tomorrow. However, there were more important matters to attend to. Zavina, to the bridge. Lu Ling turned around. The lift swiftly ascended, taking them to the command center at the top of the death spiral. Once again stepping onto the bridge, Lu Ling took a deep breath. This was his battleship. This time, he moved with great familiarity, heading directly to the captain's command seat at the highest point. "Ola, prepare for departure. Send the departure request." Departure request sent. Taking this opportunity, Lu Ling sent a message to Parker, indicating he would be back shortly. After all, he was still a guest of Zhuanbei. Departure request accepted. Outside the bridge's large viewport, the massive gates slowly opened, revealing the deep cosmos beyond. Nearby, the connectors gradually detached. Accompanied by the slight thrust of the engine starting, the metal docks on both sides began to retreat slowly. Below the captain's seat were Zavina, Gira, and Sheen. With Olo assisting, more than sufficient to maintain the basic operations of the battleship, requiring minimal skills. To unleash its full potential, a complete crew of weapon operators and a full bridge team would be necessary. Alternatively, one could generate their own Alpha Omega modified clone body. All of this required substantial investment. The bow first emerged from the dock's concealment, the light of the Carthaginian star sweeping over the sharply defined armor like a searchlight, reflecting a cold gleam. The entire departure process was exceedingly quiet, with only the low hum of the instrument energy inside the bridge serving as background noise. Departure complete. Entering controlled airspace, accelerate. The speed of the Death Spiral class quietly increased, yet it maintained an incredible silence. The main thruster at the rear of the ship expelled highly condensed indigo ion beams, the light tightly constrained and close to the nozzle, maximizing energy efficiency. The deep blue Carthaginian star and the massive starport gradually receded in the background. Navigation coordinates set to the Red Soldier Collection Station. Preparing the jump engine. Establishing jump course. Jump engine starting. A low hum resonated as the space in front of the ship began to ripple and smoothly advance forward. The distant stars and the light of nebulas slightly distorted and swayed as if viewed through a shimmering water surface, yet they remained clearly visible, not disappearing. This method of jumping felt like entering a channel made of pure energy, with turbulent currents rushing around except for the central point. Estimated arrival at waypoint in 41 seconds. Approaching destination. Arrived at waypoint. Everything came to a sudden halt. It was an extremely abrupt transition from intense motion to absolute stillness. The scene outside the viewport instantly returned to normal. The spatial turbulence naturally dissipated as if it had never existed. The forcibly created spatial channel closed silently behind, leaving no trace. In the distance, a rust-red asteroid, scarred from mining, hung quietly, and further away was the familiar, dilapidated outline of the collection station. At this moment, the ship was still gliding toward its predetermined position. Only the coordinate changes on the navigation system, having crossed hundreds of astronomical units, silently narrated the brief, yet shocking journey just undertaken. Chapter 109. Beth, the old collection station, a pirate stronghold transformed from an abandoned asteroid mining site. A week ago, in the shadow of a concealed rubble belt on the outskirts of the stronghold, a remarkably odd-shaped ship, seemingly crudely welded together from 3 different models of assault craft, hovered silently. It measured about 36 meters in length, covered in patches and additional welded armor plates. An obviously outdated jump engine was exposed at the rear, emitting unstable, faint energy fluctuations. This was the TriStar, the home of Beth and her 13 sisters, the embodiment of their dignity and ambition. Inside the cockpit, the air was murky. The low hum of the circulation system sounded like a dying patient's last breaths, intertwined with a faint yet persistent hissing from a leak somewhere in the pipes, tormenting everyone's nerves. Dim red emergency lights barely illuminated the cramped space, casting unsettling shadows. Beth slumped in a captain's chair made from repurposed scrap seating, one leg casually resting on the edge of the control panel, leaving smudged marks of an unknown oil on the dark metallic surface. Her first-generation nano-combat suit had long lost its sheen, with worn areas exposing the inner fibers, and her left elbow hastily taped with high-strength engineering tape. Her short black hair clung greasy to her forehead, and an old scar running from her temple to her chin appeared even more menacing in the dim light. With half-closed, bloodshot eyes, she quickly scanned the rolling data streams on several screens in front of her. The signal scan for the leader was still at 0. In the corner, a pale-faced, youngest girl reported in a dry voice, revealing her role as the sensor operator. With panic she couldn't hide in her tone. Beth remained silent, only swallowing the bitter saliva in her mouth that lacked vitamins. She reached into her leg pocket and pulled out the last crumpled tube of nutrient paste, roughly tearing open the packaging and squeezing the thick, tasteless gray substance into her mouth. They had been lurking here like cosmic phantoms for a full 7 days. For 7 days, not a single ship had come or gone at the entire collection station. It was like a quiet grave, deep and unfathomable. The ship's power had completely ceased, daily rations reduced to the bare minimum needed to sustain life, and the liquid filtered by the water recycling system had an unremovable rusty taste. Sometimes, they even had to shut down the temperature control system. They had once been edge members of the Red Devils, left behind after a fierce battle, discarded like trash at some abandoned stronghold. Surviving by licking the condensation from the pipes, she and her 13 similarly abandoned sisters had miraculously managed to stay alive. It had been 3 years, and during this time, they had struggled to survive in the most chaotic and dangerous fringes of Blackwater Bay, stealing parts from the ruins, robbing weaker wanderers, piece by piece. Like saving up a dowry, they had pieced together this small ship capable of short-range jumps, the TriStar. Every armor plate, every pipeline, was soaked with their sweat. A week ago, she heard that Fengling had betrayed Rachel and ambushed Sarah outside Blackwater Bay, causing a major defeat for the latter, and Beth seemed to see a glimmer of hope. So, she spent the savings she had accumulated over the years to buy the collection station's beacon through an intermediary, preparing to ally with Fengling, because Fengling was one of the 2 female leaders of the Red Devils and was in need of manpower at that moment. Beth had thought this was an opportunity, a chance to bring her sisters out of this life of scavenging in garbage heaps and uncertainty, to return to the ranks of legitimate pirates. But to her dismay, after expending the precious lifespan of the jump engine and traveling a long distance, all she found was a completely silent, eerie shell. Beth's gaze swept over faces filled with exhaustion, fear, and hunger. Her eyes gradually sharpened, and the fierce determination honed in adversity, like that of a hyena, regained the upper hand. Let us go. Who cares if she comes back? She turned around, scanning her sisters, checking weapons and protective suits. In 50 minutes, we land with me. With the command, the lifeless cabin seemed to be injected with a shot of adrenaline. The will to survive overpowered despair. Beth was the first to don a heavily worn spacesuit, checking the energy readings of the old magnetic railgun at her waist, the scar on her face appearing even harder in the reflection of the helmet visor. The TriStar's propulsion engine ignited, spewing orange chemical flames as it headed towards the collection station. After a long 50 minutes, they finally approached the massive structure. This is a base established in a meteorite belt, resembling more of a mining collection station. 2 towering structures flank either side, alongside several square buildings, collectively extending into a vast storage platform. The charred remains of a massive metal framework are exposed in the vacuum, with support beams that were originally intended to secure mining equipment crudely welded with armor plates, forming a twisted and rough defense structure. She maneuvered the ship to dock at a long-abandoned, damaged airlock, and Beth, along with 5 capable sisters, forcibly cut through the rusted gate with cutting tools. Inside was pitch black, eerily quiet, with only their footsteps and heavy breathing echoing in the empty corridor. They searched every possible corner that might hide supplies like scavengers, prizing open abandoned lockers, crawling into dark ducts. They looked for any supplies that might have been left behind. Beth deployed a drone to scan the path. Time ticked away, and hope dimmed as the flashlight's energy waned. Let us head back. Just hold on. We can still return to the bay. Just as despair was about to seize Beth once more, they made a discovery in a remote cabin that seemed like an old emergency shelter. Boss, here. A sister's voice was hoarse with excitement. Beth rushed over, the beam of her flashlight illuminating the corner. Several heavy alloy storage boxes marked with the insignia of a certain faction were abandoned there, even still bearing partially disengaged electronic locks. Clearly, they had been left behind in haste or deemed too low in value to bother taking. Cut it open. The cutter emitted a blinding blue light, and soon, the lid was forced open. In an instant, everyone's breath caught. Inside were not star coins, not weapons, nor expensive parts. It was food and fresh water. An abundance of vacuum-sealed synthetic protein blocks, high-energy nutritional paste, and even several boxes of sealed pure drinking water. In that moment, in the narrow cabin, all they could hear was the sound of their racing hearts. Beth let out a sigh of relief, leaning against the cold wall, a nearly exhausted smile appearing on her face beneath the helmet. They had survived, at least for now. A week later, at the mining collection station, the top floor of the main tower once belonged to a command center. The air was still cold, but the despair had dissipated. The emergency lighting system had been reactivated, emitting a stable yet dim glow, barely dispelling the thick darkness that had lingered. Beth stood before a large floor-to-ceiling window. Now draped in a luxurious silk robe she had found in the commander's quarters. At that moment, she gazed into the desolate universe outside, her back straightened, and the scar on her face stood out sharply under the cold light. Beside her was a sleek, glossy compact magnetic rail pistol, far more advanced than the old single-shot model. So, this was the perspective of the commander? Their adventure a week prior had yielded results beyond expectations. The discovery in that lower cabin was merely an appetizer. With the help of drone scans and an intuition and courage honed in desperate situations, Beth led her sisters upward, ultimately breaking through layers of makeshift electronic locks and physical barriers to reach the true core of the collection's